Dun, 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 dun. Good morning, everybody. Welcome in here, Murder Church, on a Sunday. I am back in the true crime sphere after a week away. We had a lot of fun Friday, but it was not, well, I guess for the Feral Friday part on YouTube maybe is a little true crimey, but we're back to finish this trial out. We'll not be finishing today, but we are on part 2 of the closing arguments by the prosecution. Alan Jackson, welcome in here. Hit the like, share it out. Let's go.
Let's rock.
Yo, everybody. What's going on? What's happening? Good morning, good morning, good morning. I haven't made it. I know. I might as well change the time frame to 10 a.m. on Sundays, but been going too hard on a Saturday night. I didn't get to bed till I think about 3:30. Even after I got back from Dan's, it was Dan's birthday last night. We went over, we hung out, ate some food, watched some wrestling. Yeah, we had a good time, but I didn't get back here to probably like 1:30-ish, and then when I got here, I had to calm down. I watched a movie, a terrible movie named Hellbent. That was great, actually, but it was one that I had missed over time. But everybody, welcome in here. I appreciate a full house here tonight, ready for these closing arguments to continue. If you watched last week, you know that we are finally in the midst of it. Alan Jackson is finally up there, closing this thing down, and we still have quite a ways to go. But we've got to start this thing out. We've got an hour here, and we'll keep trucking after that. We'll try to go here to at least 12:30. We'll see how it works out. Maybe 1. Let's see what happens. But welcome in, everybody. I appreciate it. We've also got a wheel to spin here, and already had some stuff. One thing that I missed on Friday night, I just now noticed over on the kick side, Holly Berry had came through and gifted out a sub. Subbed somebody up. I think it was Madeline over on Kick. So Holly Berry, thank you very much. I don't think she comes in here this early, but I've got her on the new wheel, and then also through my Cash App already. Cash App or Venmo 1 in the email for Publicly Buzzed. Kathy coming through like she always does with a 420. Thank you so much. I've got you on the new wheel. But we have a wheel ready to go as well, and we're going to get that thing rocking and rolling here. So everybody, thank you all very much for coming through. I appreciate it. Let's see who's in the house. One thing that I need to do is this. Boom, 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 so we can see and talk to each other. Get this over here. Hope everybody's having a great weekend. Have to go back to work tomorrow. I've been out for a while because of the trial that I was a juror on. Let's see who's in here. Semi Sharp coming through here. Kathy in the house. Kathy, again, thank you so much for that 420. I appreciate it. Pammy in the house. Pokemon going to come through and going to mod up for us here tonight. Appreciate it. Here this morning. Thank you. That is exactly what happened. Dan's birthday party, yeah, we were going a little, I didn't go hard, I didn't really even drink that much, but it was fun, it was good. Still stayed up pretty late. Bassett Page in the house, Carrie in the house, Motion to Scream in the house. Love to see it. Brooklyn, what's up, what's up? Who else is in here? Wildside coming through, Therapist you know. A lot of beautiful people. A lot of beautiful people. All the beautiful people, actually. The Buzz Nation comes through hard. Teresa's in the house. Brooklyn's in the house. What's up, what's up, what's up? Karsten. Am I butchering that? Welcome in here. In the house. Nice, nice, nice. I don't think I'm missing it. Salty Sleuths. Hope you're doing good this morning. Don't think I'm missing anyone. BGOG. I'm just kind of going down from the bottom. Factual Lie. What's up? Hope you're getting your stuff here soon. Also, boom, boom, boom. I think that is everyone. Therapist, coming through with $5 already this morning. Thank you so much. And that is going to continue to build this second wheel that we already started out on Feral Friday, which Feral Friday, I don't know if everybody goes over and hangs out with us on Kick, but that was, and I still have that one actually up for anybody that would like to watch the YouTube portion. Usually I make that a members only after we go live. I've left that up. There's some cool stuff in there, just me talking about the trial that I was a part of for the last week. I was a juror on a first-degree murder trial, absolute insanity, and I plan on making a video about me talking more in depth on it with kind of a single-person video like I'm doing, like this style, except it will be a video. I just need some time to do it. So thank you so much, Therapist. I appreciate the hell out of that. Wild Side. Oh my God, that is not a good shirt for for Murder Church. Way too phallic. What shows up on screen, but in line with Feral Friday. I mean, yeah, it's a movie. This is a movie called The Void. Really trippy fucking film. Really good, really good. Strychnine, what's up? What's up? Good to see you. Good to see you. Boom, I'm going to count that as the bells because my shit is still fucked up. I might have a fucked up Stream Deck. This thing will not come back alive. I might have to get a new Stream Deck. He was guilty. First degree murder, guilty, and with no mercy. In West Virginia, we have a thing, if it's first degree, we don't have the death penalty, but we have a thing called mercy or no mercy. And if you have mercy, that means that you would have the ability to get parole within 15, come up for parole within 15 years. Not necessarily that you would get it, but with no mercy, that is not a possibility, and you will die in prison. And that's what we did. Insane case. But yeah, oh my God, it was wild. Okay, a 4-day trial here. Insanity. In freaking sanity. Jersey Jen, welcome in here. Debbie Blair, we got all the beautiful people in here. Hell yeah, appreciate everyone coming through. Nice. And hey, what we're going to start out with, we're going to start out the freaking wheel right now before we even get in here. So I'm going to make this in real time in front of you guys is what I'm going to do. So hold on, let me get it here and I'll show you where I'm at. There's the wheel, baby. Let me get my new names on here, though. That was the old wheel. The new wheel is going to start out with True Crime Butterfly. Next we got Lisa. That's Miss Shorty. Holly Berry coming through. Miss Wildside. Who else we got here? Pammy in the house. Thank you, Pammy. All of these fine folks always giving out and being the best. Jen, boo. Jersey Jen hanging out. Jen's on there twice in a row. Susan coming through. Susan, absolutely amazing. Susan is on here. She sent me $25. I don't even know if I ever shouted this out. One night last week on X, I was talking about showing the kitties. I was showing the kitties off on X, and she just came through and gifted them. That $25 is going to the kitties' treats exclusively. Giving them some cans, some yum-yums. Life Artist, thank you so much. Put that one down right here. And we're right now about to give out some goodies. We're going to give out the Hell Yeah magnet. We're going to give out the Murder Church magnet. We're going to give out some stickers. And then after that, we have another True Crime Butterfly. Doubling their chances here. I love it. We have a couple of doubles on here. It's no limit on the wheel, folks. If you come through and you are amazing, you can get on this thing. Salty Sleuth is going to end that son of a bitch. So let's see who wins today. Good luck. Oh, boom. Who's going to win her up? Who's going to win it up? Phil's kind of blocking it here. Hold on, Phil. Move your big head, you son of a bitch. Holly Berry. There we go. Holly Berry. Absolute G around these parts. Anybody that knows. Holly's been with me for a long time. And she has been super kind over these years. And I love Holly. Holly's always awesome. She was coming through hard, hanging out on Feral Friday. Feral Friday, again, was a madhouse. We had Chris Stewart on here. We had Dandy Savage on here. And my God, we had a really, really fun time watching a classic Kingpin. But we had so many different avenues we went down. We talked about spontaneous combustion. We had a deep, in-depth argument and a fight about who was creepier, Chris Elliott, Woody Harrelson, or Bill Murray. It got heated. Dan had to leave the room. After he got back, we all apologized to each. It was crazy. I'm going to take that show and I'm going to keep it forever, but I need to clip it for X because there's so many goodies on there. But God, it's like almost a 4-hour stream just on Kick, and then on the YouTube portion it was like 40 some minutes. We went like 4 hours Friday night. Let me see, magnets, stickers for Holly, and then of course the coaster. Fuck yeah, nice. Love it. Make sure I'm not missing anything in here real quick. Boom. Again, everybody hanging out this morning. I really appreciate it, guys. Kind of going on today. I don't have a midday stream with anybody. Sometimes on Sunday I'll do something with Jack. We do have already another plan working out, so keep an eye out. I love doing those Jack streams. He's been extremely fun to work with. He's awesome. His insight always blows my mind. Went live with him last week. If anybody has not checked that out and you're deep into this Phil Spector part, last week's stream with Jack is a must-see. He analyzes a 1965 interview with Phil Spector on a late-night talk show again in 1965. It's really interesting to see exactly how he was acting with those folks. What else? I'm trying to not miss anything here. Oh, and I will be doing another stream today. So normally on Sunday nights on the wrestling channel, I'll stream at 6 p.m. Eastern. Tonight is SummerSlam Night 2. So I'm going to do that early. I think I'm going to start that at 3:30 p.m. today. So it'll go till about, it's usually a little less than 2 hours. So it should go to about 5:20 or so, which is perfect for the summertime time frame. And then I have a brand new video dropping on the wrestling channel today at 4:45 p.m. Eastern that I've been spending the last 3 weeks working on. And it is a very interesting story. So yeah, hopefully everybody checks all this stuff out. But without further ado, what do we got in here? Hold on. I need to watch the Bear. I did watch that, actually. I did see the Gary Busey thing. I felt very sad for Gary Busey. I'm actually a very big fan of Gary Busey. And yeah, I thought that was pretty fucking gross, if you want my direct opinion about that. Debbie Blair, get in here. But yeah, let's start this thing out. Without further ado, part 2 of this closing argument by Alan Jackson. Let me also make this sure this is correct. God, we've been on this for a while. We will finish this in the month of August. I guarantee you.
Court's being in session. All right.
Check.
All the parties, jurors, and alternates are present as heretofore. You may resume.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yeah, a Jack show. Dang. I don't think I've had a Jack show that wasn't just fire. Me and him mesh really well together.
Everybody feel better?
I like
The next point that I was just about to make was, think about in the back of your mind, again, this is just a quick list of things to think about when you're assigning credibility, the character, and the quality of the evidence that you've been presented. Think about the photographs of Lana Clarkson that the defense chose to use over and over and over. Let me bring this back up to Daniel Stark. You remember Daniel Stark was on the witness stand, and he needed to make an identification of who it was that he claimed was under the influence, the woman who broke her wrists. Perfectly acceptable. Nothing wrong with that. We need to make identifications, make sure we're talking about the same folks, right? So the defense chooses a photograph. I was aghast. It was remarkable to me. The defense had, first of all, I should say this, the defense had available to them, just as you had available to you, probably dozens, if not dozens, at least a dozen photographs of Lana Clarkson headshots. Beautiful headshots of the face. Usually in a trial, and when we have to make an identification, we have to do it with a DMV photo or something, because none of us run around making headshots. Lana Clarkson.
Right. Yeah, I did cover the Natalie Cochran phase. That is right. That one was about an hour from me. That one was really interesting to watch. Yeah, and I guess I had even forgotten about that now that you're mentioning that, because yeah, at this point, even in the trial I was a part of, I was like, whoa. And it's like a whole nother mini trial.
Had tons and tons of photographs. If all you want to do is identify her face, is that the same person? Is that not the same person? They had dozens of photographs. Mr. Rosen had dozens of photographs to choose from. With Daniel Stark on the stand, do you remember the photograph they put on the overhead? Anybody remember that one? Lana Clarkson with her leg hiked up on a table. Alcohol all over the table, leg hiked up at a party, obviously. Think about the photographs that they chose to use. They could use anything they want. What subliminal messages was the defense trying to send you about Lana Clarkson? There's nothing wrong with that photo. I mean, come on. We've all had parties. We've all had get-togethers with friends, and someone grabs a camera and you snap a shot, and maybe you're putting the bunny ears over someone's head, or you're goofing off, or you're doing whatever. That's fine. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the photograph itself. All I'm saying is take a step back and ask yourself, why did they choose that photograph? What were they thinking? Why choose the other photograph with Lana with a bright green lime in her mouth? That beautiful, sexy red dress with her her back to the camera, looking back over her shoulder. Why choose that photograph? If all you're trying to do is identify that we're talking about the same person, think about that. Is the evidence that's being presented...
Real quick, Factual Law, thanks for that share. Bassett Page, thanks for that share. Really appreciate it, guys.
...presented to you trustworthy? Or is there an attempt at manipulation? Are they attempting to drag her through the mud? A little or a lot? The tequila, another peripheral issue, and this one's actually kind of funny to me because it involves you folks. the tequila. Who cares about the tequila? There was a tequila bottle on Phil Spector's living room table, all right? Who cares about the tequila except for the fact that the defense made an overt suggestion 2, 3, 4 times during cross-examination of some of the people's witnesses at the House of Blues about missing bottles of tequila at the House of Blues. The suggestion was overtly that Lana Clarkson stole the tequila. Now she's a thief. Well, that fell completely flat because all the personnel at the House of Blues said absolutely not. She couldn't have stolen tequila even if she wanted to. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. We have tight inventory controls, and there was no tequila missing, so that fell flat. That shot across the bow, if you will, about Lana Clarkson fell completely flat. Notwithstanding that, not to mention the fact that Lana Clarkson, even according to their own concessions, didn't decide to go with Phil Spector until she was in the parking lot. It was nothing. It was absolutely nothing. But they made the suggestion. Trustworthy or manipulation? Then you folks come in. And I got to tell you, we went out to remember we went out to the jury view. You guys got to get together. Let me try that again. You guys got to get together. That makes absolutely no sense, does it? You folks got together. And talk a little bit about, and ask questions. Is there anything else you'd like to see? We had a bunch of smart lawyers up here. I think I'm probably one of them. We had the judge, and I know he's smart. He decided, along with us, where are we going to look? Where would the jurors most like to look? The foyer was obvious. The courtyard was obvious. They're going to want to look at the fountain, walk around out there. They're going to want to look in the front door, probably the first stairway landing. Not necessarily upstairs, not much of interest upstairs, really. In the bathroom, they'll probably want to glance in the bathroom and probably the living room. Maybe the front stairs. So we thought we covered all our bases. Someone among you is a friggin' genius. Someone among you got together and said, hey, I got an idea. I want to see the bar. Remember that? Somebody said, I want to see the bar. And we thought, why would anybody want to see the bar? And then I went and looked at the bar. And you folks went and looked at the bar. And lo and behold, what was sitting right behind the bar in plain view, half empty? A big, fat bottle of Jose Cuervo tequila. The defense didn't think about that, did they? When you folks went and looked at the bar. It was his tequila. It was always his tequila. Of course it was his tequila. He stocks his bar with his tequila. But they wanted to make a suggestion
thank you for that share.
that Lana Clarkson is a thief who walks around hiking her foot up on a table. Trustworthy or manipulation? The Paxil. We can cross this one off our list pretty quick. The defense experts actually wrote in their reports, as you heard when I cross-examined Dr. DeMaio, oh yeah, she was taking Paxil. She was depressed because Paxil is sometimes given for depression. Yeah, absolutely. This goes into my expert opinion that she was depressed and she killed herself because she was taking Paxil. Until we learned that she actually was not prescribed Paxil for depression, had nothing to do with depression. She had migraine headaches. Paxil is also prescribed for headaches. Would the defense have told you this had it not come out on cross-examination? You have to ask yourself that. Constantly test the quality and character of the evidence that's being presented. Is it trustworthy, or is this once more a bit of an attempt at manipulation? The taser wire. I swear to God, if I heard one more comment about this taser wire, I thought I was going to puke. I was sitting there, in Mr. Dixon's in my seat now, I was sitting there at the table thinking, God, why, oh why, is there this suggestion about the taser wire and her feet being lifted and the taser wire being all under her feet, etc., when I'm sitting there literally looking at a photograph that shows it's not. The defense has the same photographs I have, and it literally took me, I mean, those suggestions were made over and over and over until finally I asked Mr. Dixon, come out here, let's close this issue once and for all. Here's the photograph. Her feet were not moved. That taser wire was wedged under the heel. Not under her foot, just wedged at the heel. You all saw the photograph, and I literally heard a unified when we finally showed the photograph. Are they trying to manipulate you, or is their evidence really trustworthy? And what may rank up there with one of the most racially insensitive comments I've ever heard in a court of law. D'Souza's siesta, pardon, In opening statement, there was a suggestion that Adriana D'Souza...
Damn, Forrest coming out, helping out the Buzz Nation. Forrest, sir, thank you so much. Forrest is the man, dude. Forrest comes through here, dropping it like it's hot, out of his mind. Motion to Scream, get the fuck in here. Also, that gets you guys into the book club. Real quick, we'll just take a moment to do a little plug ski here for it. Boom, if you're not in the book club, you might be in the book club now just because of Forrest. So every Tuesday night, we do the book club. Right now, we're reading The Stranger Beside Me and Rule Book. It's a Ted Bundy book. I didn't have it last week, of course, because I didn't do a lot last week with the trial going on. After I'd get out of there, my head was it was pretty heavy, so I just wasn't feeling it. But we should be back Tuesday night with that as we're continuing with part 2 of chapter 29. Motion to Scream, get in here. Gabby, get in here. Dr. J, what a cool name. Angie Hersimick. I think I'm getting that right. Angie, don't come at me. I love it. Thank you. Welcome in here. And Taryn Dusty on old G coming back in here. Welcome in here, Forrest. Let me get you on that thing. Appreciate that. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Coming through hot this morning. Damn. And right after that, Bonnie Bailey. I hope you're doing well, Bonnie. Hope everything's good with you right now. Coming through here. Bonnie, absolute G around these parts as well. Been so supportive over the years. I cannot thank her enough for everything she's done for me personally. With Gypsy, Bonnie, you fucking rule. Thank you so much for coming through here. And that $2 gets you on the wheel. And then after that, Teresa's going to gift one out as well. And oh my God, Peaches, 1287's getting that thing. The same thing to you, Peaches. Get in the book club on Tuesday night. Teresa, nice. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. We're building this thing out. We might already have it, actually. Where are we at? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We're one away, if I am looking at this correctly, from another spin, a double spin here this morning. Thank you all so much. You guys are the kindest.
Was taking a, siesta, and therefore couldn't have heard what he heard. Now, why of all the words you could, we have a word for it in English, it's called a nap. Why of all the words that could be used with regard to Adriana D'Souza was the word siesta used? As it turns out, that fell flat too. He wasn't taking a nap or a siesta or anything of the kind. And by the way, he's Brazilian, speaking Portuguese.
Thank you very much, Tina. Tina finishes it out with another gifted membership, again getting you in the book club. That's what I like to say. You get gifted out here, you're getting a little something extra, because the book club is for members only exclusively here in the Buzz Nation. So Kate Poole, you are now in the book club as well. Thanks to the beautiful Tina. Thank you so much. Tina just rounded out that wheel, which we will do probably after this video here. Thank you so much. And then Therapist said, you know what? I'd like to start a brand new wheel. And we will do just that. Thank you so much, Therapist. The best folks hang right here in the Buzz Nation. I swear to God. The kindest folks. You guys are the best. Thank you so much.
He wasn't taking anything. He was awake, he had just walked around the fountain, he had just gotten back in the car, and he stepped out of the car when Spector stepped out. He wasn't taking a nap, and he damn sure wasn't taking a siesta. Twisting the sleeves. This came out recently. There was a suggestion among every single one of the defense experts. Oh yeah, I'm basing my opinion, at least in part, on the fact that Lana Clarkson had spattered tissue on her buttons. And it started with Dr. DeMaio. And remember, it was actually kind of a good moment for me because I didn't have to say anything. I just walked up and saw Dr. DeMaio doing his hands and talking about how she killed herself. And the reason that she had to have killed herself is because she had to have fired the weapon because she had back spatter from her mouth on the buttons of her sleeve. And he didn't realize I just walked up, and one of my best cross-examination questions of the whole trial was, Dr. DeMaio, put your arm up again.
In the street.
Thanks, that's it. The sleeves are on the back of the buttons. I'm sorry, reverse that. The buttons are on the back of the sleeves, and everybody knows that. It's a ridiculous attempt on the defense's part. Then we get Dr. Bodden on the stand. And Dr. Bodden starts talking about this as well. I guess he didn't watch Dr. DeMaio's testimony. He didn't realize that, actually, we've already closed that door. We've already put the period at the end of that sentence. The buttons are on the back of the sleeve. He probably shouldn't have gone there, but he did. Oh yeah, the button's on the sleeve, the button's on the sleeve, et cetera, et cetera. Then Chris Plord stands up and shows a photograph from the defense evidence viewing, and literally, I'm not going to do it again, but I had my jacket off, and I mean, literally, they had the sleeve all twisted and stuff, and I was curious, where did that picture come from? So I start, because I have a set of photographs from the defense, and I start looking at the pictures. The one before it was the picture that I ultimately showed you,
that interviewed him.
with Dr. DeMaio's hands literally twisting the sleeves. Literally twisting the sleeves on the mannequin to where they could say, take the picture. And they got it exactly where they wanted to, half off the mannequin, twisting the sleeves up so that they could come to court and say, oh yeah, those sleeves were facing her mouth. That is the most ridiculous thing in the world. You can put your hands up, arms up, down. There's a couple of jurors wearing jackets, men and women. You can put your hands up 15,000 times. Those buttons ain't going to face your mouth. They're just not, ever. Is the evidence they're presenting you trustworthy, or is it an attempt at manipulation? And then we come to what I would call the whopper, because there was a whopper. And it came to you from opening statement. I think it was Mrs. Kenny Bodden who told you, along with Mr. Plord, because Mr. Plord was standing at the overhead, the Elmo, thank you. And there was a photograph shown. And Mrs. Kenny Bodden stood here in front of you at this lectern, and she said, we are going to prove, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we will prove that Lana Clarkson, her DNA was on the bottom of the bullets that were in that gun, and she loaded the gun. It's going to prove scientifically that she loaded the gun. And I almost fell out of my chair. I've been living this case for a couple years. And that's the first time I ever heard that. And I thought, my God, could I have been so daft as to have missed a report? We've given them all of our reports. They have everything that we have, folks. That's the discovery rules. We'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later on. We have reciprocal discovery. We have to, under the quote unquote discovery rules, I have to give them everything I've got. Everything. Mrs. Kenny Bodden had the exact same reports I've got. Yet she stood here and said the DNA was taken off the bottom of the bullets, and that's going to prove that Lana Clarkson loaded that weapon. And I thought, my God, if she could prove that, wow, that's a real change in the case. Unfortunately, and by the way, this is the photograph that Chris Plord actually circled. That's where the DNA came from, according to opening statement. Unfortunately, that proved to be 100% false. The DNA, and the defense had these reports, they knew this. The DNA came out of the tips, the hollow point tips that had Lana Clarkson's blood in it. You heard evidence about this, and they left this alone during the course of Dr. Lynn Harold's testimony, because they knew they couldn't follow up. They couldn't prove what Linda Kenny Bodden said she was going to prove. Now, one thing you can say about the defense team, they are not underprepared. There's enough of them, and they're all real bright. So you have to ask yourself, why? Why, oh why, would Linda Kenny Bodden stand up here?
Simi, thanks for that sharp. What I just said. Simi, thanks for that share. Simi Sharp, thank you so much.
And tell you that Lana Clarkson can be proved to have loaded the gun. Was that just to put a thing in the back of your mind? Just a twinge? Was there a hope that the prosecution would just miss that? We'd move beyond it? We'd figure out that we'd put on evidence that there was DNA off the bullets, and it turned out to be Lana Clarkson's. We just move on. We wouldn't specify where it came from. You have to ask yourself constantly, is the evidence that they're presenting trustworthy? Is it trustworthy? Or is it an attempt at manipulation? Those are things to keep in mind as we talk about the defense in this case. And now I'm going to change gears a little bit, and we're going to talk about the way the defense really broke down. Again, they have no obligation to present evidence to you, folks. But if they choose to, you test the character and quality of that evidence. You test how much credibility, or you check how much credibility you're going to give that evidence. And their defense can be broken down into two categories. Basically, the attacks on Lana, and they attacked her over and over and over. Mr. Cutler stood up here in opening statement and said, one thing I promise you we'll never do, we'll never attack Lana Clarkson. Remember that? He said, we will never attack Lana Clarkson. And then they spent 4 months doing exactly that. Over and over and over. And the second thing is buying their science. The science, and I put that in quotation marks, the science that they attempted to sell you. And it just doesn't stand up. So let's take them one at a time. The attacks on Lana Clarkson. First of all, one thing that we have to start with is there is a difference, folks. There is a huge difference, and you know it. Some of you are actually nodding your head right now as you look up at the screen. There's a difference between clinical depression and suicidal ideation versus the normal emotional ups and downs that any one of us experience. And what do we know for a fact about Lana Clarkson? What has the evidence shown about Lana Clarkson? She was never diagnosed. There's no evidence that she was ever diagnosed with depression. She was never suicidal. She had no suicidal tendencies. She had no suicidal ideation. There's nothing to suggest that she engaged in high-risk behavior. All of this stuff is suggestive of someone who has major depressive disorder, and she had no suicidal attempts, no prior suicide attempts, I should say, and never diagnosed with major depressive disorder. Now, one thing I want to make clear is Dr. DeMaio said this. He loved his statistics, and God Almighty, we got involved in statistics over and over. I see one of you shaking your head. No, I will not get back into the statistics. We've beaten that down to the ground. No, we will not. However, Dr. DeMaio loved to cite statistics, and he said, well, you know, one thing that I know is depression is the leading cause of suicide. Wrong, wrong, wrong. Being diagnosed with major depressive disorder is the leading cause of suicide. Everybody understand the difference in that? Christ, I got depressed at the end of when University of Texas football team loses, I get depressed. Luckily, it hadn't been often. I hear groans. How about this? This will bring it back home. When SC wins, I get depressed. There are the groans I was looking for. My point is, folks, I'm not trying to bring levity to a serious subject. What I'm trying to say is we all have normal ups and downs. You have a big project due at work and you don't get it in on time. Your boss chews your butt out. You get depressed. You feel like, oh, crap, I let someone down. If your kids come home from school and they get crappy grades and it's the third time in a row, you get depressed. This is normal human life. We get depressed. I don't want you to be under the impression that Dr. DeMaio is saying every time someone has a down day, that's a cause of suicide. It is not. That was a blatant attempt at misleading you. Depression is not the leading cause of suicide. Being diagnosed with major depressive disorder, which is a medical condition, is a leading cause of suicide. So that wasn't going to work. They couldn't show that she had suicidal ideation. They couldn't show that she had prior suicide attempts. They couldn't show that she had been diagnosed with major depressive disorder. They couldn't show any of that stuff about Lana. All they could show is that she was a normal human being. So what do? They turned to Jennifer Hayes and pumpkin pie. Y'all have been waiting for me to talk about that, hadn't you? Jennifer Hayes and pumpkin pie. What did Jennifer Hayes say? Jennifer Hayes said, Lana Clarkson and me and pumpkin pie were the Three Musketeers. Inseparable sisters. We were each other's confidants. We were each other's go-to gals. We were inseparable. We were connected at the hip. We were the Three Musketeers, according to Jennifer Hayes. I loved Lana. I knew everything about Lana, and I knew the real Lana. Which is real convenient, by the way. Oh, all you people, everybody else, all the evidence that says that she was a happy person, oh, that was just the game face Lana. I knew the real Lana. I got down into the dirt with her. I knew the real Lana Clarkson. Really? Did you? One of the first things you said on on cross-examination, actually it was direct examination, I think it was a faux pas, I think she wished she could have taken it back. She said, I'm Pi's memory. I, Jennifer Hayes, am Pi's memory. Pi has such a poor memory. Pumpkin Pie can't remember her name if I don't give it to her. She has such a poor memory that I'm actually her memory.
Fridge upstairs I've had in there for a minute.
What else do we know? We know that Tawny Tyndall, as she is wont to do, interviewed her. But amazingly, there's no recording of that interview. And she interviewed her with another person. She interviewed Jennifer Hayes right alongside another person. Who could that person be? Oh yeah, Pumpkin Pie. The three of them sat and chatted together, and what do you think they did? You think Pumpkin Pie might have helped Jennifer Hayes a little bit get her story straight? We're going to get to Pumpkin Pie in a second, and her motivations in this trial in just a second. But do you think that their testimony sounded just alike enough that it's suggestive that they might have gotten their story straight? One thing's for sure, you, folks, will never know. You'll never know. Because Tawny Tyndall and the defense made sure that those conversations were never recorded. So you'll never know. You have to ask yourself, whose testimony were you listening to when Jennifer Hayes testified? Was it hers? Was it Pumpkin Pie's? Roger Rosen even talked to Jennifer Hayes at one point. That wasn't recorded either. Whose testimony were you really listening to? And then we find out that Jennifer Hayes knows about the cottage. This is the inseparable sister, the person that is closer to her than anybody else. They trade confidences and intimacies. They talk constantly. They know each other's good moods, bad moods. I know the good moods, bad moods, and I, Jennifer Hayes, know the real Lana Clarkson. Really, how long has she lived in the cottage? Oh, as long as I've known her. Absolutely. I've known her 8-9 years. She's lived there the whole time. Oops. Guess she didn't get that one straight during her conversation with Pumpkin Pie. Lana Clarkson lived in the cottage for about 2 years, a little over 2 years. Jennifer Hayes doesn't even know where Lana Clarkson lived. I'm not saying they didn't know each other. I'm saying you have to question whether or not they knew each other in the way that Jennifer Hayes said they knew each other. Keep in mind, she's got no corroboration whatsoever about their relationship, except one person. Pumpkin Pie. Interestingly enough, you'll have available to you, and I don't suggest you do this, it takes a long time. Actually, I suggest you do it. What the heck? You got nothing but time anyway, right? We presented you with phone records. Cell phone records from Lana Clarkson, cell phone records from Jennifer Hayes. Not one phone call in the last 3 months of Lana Clarkson's life. Not one call received, not one call made. Well, you know what? We're in an email society. They don't talk on the phone. They get together all the time and share their intimacies in email. We know what a prolific emailer Lana Clarkson was, right? So it must have been email. We'll give Jennifer a break. Oops. Not one email. Not one email in evidence that you have between Lana Clarkson and Jennifer Hayes. Whose testimony were you really listening to? Hers or Pumpkin Pie's? And then we have Pumpkin Pie, who without question has chased the limelight from the day Lana Clarkson died. With the memorials that she went to, having her own memorial at some club that she was promoting. She was so devastated, by the way, that she got up that next Tuesday. Lana Clarkson lost her life on Monday. She got up on Tuesday and promoted another club. Oh, I had to be dragged out of bed, and I was dragged out of, the grocery store, and I collapsed, et cetera, et cetera. Oh, please. She was promoting a club the next day. I'm not saying that she wasn't hurt by Lana's death. I'm not being insensitive to her hurt. I'm saying, can you really believe this sob story that Pumpkin Pie was trying to sell you? Let's think about this. You have to test the character and quality of her testimony on this witness stand. Because, folks, the reality is, if it didn't come through that microphone, or it's not presented to you physically, it ain't an evidence. All right? What comes through that microphone is evidence. So you can test how Pumpkin Pie acted and reacted. You can test the character and quality of her testimony just by how she acted on the stand. How was she dressed? Did she come dressed appropriately? Or did she look like she was looking for attention? Everybody thought about that. Of course, the defense got her cleaned up the next time she was called to the stand, or somebody got her cleaned up the next time she was called to the stand. Did she really look like someone who had just lost her best friend and is in the trial of her best friend's death as she tries to give over the truth about her friend? Or did she look like she was trying to draw attention to herself, just with her appearance, before she even started talking? And I don't think I'm putting too fine a point on it when I say, in trying to determine whether or not she seeks attention for herself, is she the type, is she an attention seeker? She named herself Pumpkin Pie. I mean, it's not like she went home to her mom and said, you know what, I don't like Irene and I don't like Elizabeth and Laughlin, it's not really working for me, so I'm going to change to Susie or Joanne or Michelle. No, she said, yeah, you know what, I think I'm going to change my name to a Thanksgiving Day dessert. Pumpkin Pie.
Pumpkin Pie.
Someone who's, and look, she can change her name anything she wants to. I don't care. I don't care about that. All I'm saying is, you have to ask yourself, is this part and parcel of her attempt to draw attention to herself? That's what she craves. The attention on herself. She used Lana Clarkson in life to do that. Tall, gorgeous, beautiful blonde. And she's using Lana Clarkson in death to do that. To draw attention to herself.
I'd like to see Rosen's face.
When we approach sidebar, again, you test the character and quality of everybody's testimony and you watch their demeanor. That's why they testify live in front of you. So you can watch their demeanor. What was Pumpkin Pie doing? We approached sidebar at one point, and Judge Fiddler and Mr. Rosen and myself, Mr. Dixon, were all having a discussion at sidebar, and I glance over, and Pumpkin Pie has brought friends, a little entourage, who are sitting in the back of the court, and she's literally smiling and waving from the witness stand. In the murder trial of her best friend, smiling and waving at the audience, drawing attention to herself. And then you have the book deal. Didn't come out on direct examination, but on cross-examination, she admitted, oh yeah, there's something going on, there's a treatment there, and blah, blah, blah. Well, who would buy a book about Pumpkin Pie? I mean, really, if it wasn't for this case, who would buy a book about Pumpkin Pie?
He's coming out swinging on Pumpkin Pie. I wish I had my bell to ring, because damn, son.
That's something that you think, and you're smart folks, that publishers would try to publish a book about a LA club promoter that does clubs here and there in LA. I don't know. Maybe it'd be a #1 bestseller. I don't know. I don't think so. However, you change that a little bit. You tweak that a little bit. And all of a sudden, Pumpkin Pie becomes the star witness for the defense in the Phil Spector murder trial. Maybe that might sell a book or two. Chasing the limelight. That's Pumpkin Pie. And then, of course, we've already talked about whether or not Jennifer Hayes actually testified as Jennifer Hayes, or if there was some puppetry going on, and literally Jennifer Hayes had been given information by Pumpkin Pie, say this, don't say this, say that, none of which, by the way, is borne out by the evidence. No phone calls, no emails. She was asked a question she probably wasn't expecting. How long has Lana lived in the cottage? Oh, the whole time I've known her, 8 years, 9 years. You know, hoping for the best. Oops. And then, as a Hail Mary, there were a couple of Hail Marys in here. When Pumpkin Pie was brought back to the stand, she said, oh yeah, and by the way, just in case you were wondering, by the way, Lana always has her purse on her shoulder. Why did that come up? Why would that come up? Because the defense knows good and well that one thing they can't get by, one thing they can't get over, one thing that will never, ever make any sense, is that Lana Clarkson killed herself while she had her purse on her shoulder. Is having her purse on her shoulder more consistent with committing suicide? Or is it more consistent with saying, hell, I'm ready to leave, I'm ready to go
Get the hell outta
home?
here.
They can't get past that. They cannot ever get past that because it makes no sense. And they know it. So what do they do? Here's the Hail Mary.
Really, Phil Jackson.
You know what? Pumpkin Pie's like Mikey. Remember those Life commercials, the Life cereal commercials? Mikey? Give it to Pumpkin Pie.
Mikey,
She'll say
he likes
anything.
it.
Remember Mikey? He'll eat anything. You know what? We're screwed on this purse issue. We can't get by that. The purse is the purse is the purse. It's on her shoulder. How do we explain that? Oh, well, I got an idea. Just give it to Pie. She'll say anything. Have her testify that Lana constantly had her purse on her shoulder. Every single time she saw her purse was on her shoulder. So Pumpkin Pie comes to court and she says exactly that. I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God. Lana always had her purse on her shoulder. And she's out of here.
He's hilarious.
Really. Except for all those photographs that they forgot that they introduced at the parties and at the beach and in Hawaii and in Jamaica and at such and such table and at the Jeff Franklin park. And guess what? Guess what's missing? Oh yeah, didn't think about that, did you? Not one photograph has her with her purse in it. Not one photograph has Lana with her purse in it. They didn't think about that. We know that there is at least one person in this trial who admitted lying. An admitted liar, and that's Pumpkin Pie. She said, yep, I lied. He's got an excuse for it now. Oh yeah, I lied to Detective Tomlin. I didn't tell him the whole truth. Well, let's see about that. Her first statement to Detective Tomlin, as you recall, was Lana
Let me fix that so we can get these scene. Boom. What's up, brother? Hope you're doing good, man.
was not suicidal. Lana was never depressed. The only time she was depressed,
Bob, I was on a defense jury for first-degree murder this last week. A 4-day trial. How insane is that?
Clarkson, was when she actually broke her wrists a year ago. And I put my hands behind my back just almost unconsciously because that's how Lana fell. She slipped on a rug and braced herself and snapped her wrists. 21 fractures, 3 surgeries, pins, halos, literally pins drilled into her skin, through her skin, into her bone. Was she depressed then? According to Pumpkin Pie, yeah, she was a little depressed then. Well, my God, who wouldn't be? Who among us wouldn't be? You're not going to get up and click your heels and sing a happy tune the next day after you have spiral fractures in both your wrists. Of course she was a little depressed. Detective Tomlin, was she depressed on February 3rd? Is she depressed now? And remember, this statement came just hours after Lana was shot to death by Phil Spector. No, she's not depressed, and she's definitely not suicidal. Then Pumpkin Pie, chasing that limelight, decides she wants to talk to Star Magazine. She had a pathetic excuse about what happened, but basically it went like this. The family decided they were going to have some dignity about this case. They had suffered enough. They had suffered the loss of their daughter, their sister. They had suffered enough. This case was not going to be tried in the press. So they gave basically standing orders. Nobody close to us will talk to the press. Pumpkin Pie, to hell with it. I'll talk to the press if I decide to. So at one of her clubs, this Star Magazine reporter shows up, and they have a conversation. And remember what Pumpkin Pie's testimony was when she started on direct examination, under direct examination by Mr. Rosen. The direct examination went something like this. Lana Clarkson was my best friend in the world. She was my whole world. She was my sister, my inseparable sister. She was my best friend. We talked 3 to 4 times a day. I knew her better than anybody. Star Magazine article comes out. An anonymous person who claims to be Lana Clarkson's best friend, her best friend in the world, someone she cares about, someone she shares confidences with, someone she talks to 3 to 4 times a day. Pumpkin Pie on the witness stand? That's not me. I don't know who that is. That's not me. Right. So Star Magazine comes out, and rightfully so. The family says, you know what? You have broken the cardinal rule. We decided we are suffering, we're mourning, we have suffered the loss of our loved one, and you're out self-promoting at Star Magazine. You're done. You're exiled. It wasn't that formal. I'm putting more formal words on it. Basically, they said with dignity, you know what? we're not going to talk to you anymore. We're not going to give you information. You're not going to be sort of in the inner circle. And that drove Pumpkin Pie nuts, because where does she want to be above all other places? In the spotlight, in the inner circle. So she wasn't getting information. Then she picks up Vanity Fair. Picks up that article in Vanity Fair, begins to flip through the article, and lo and behold, the Kessel brothers' name is mentioned in the article. And she thinks, wait a minute, you know, I promote at all these clubs all over LA, and Backstage Cafe, they or one or both of them are owners or part owners of Backstage Cafe. That could be interesting. That could be interesting. I'm not in the inner circle with the family. Is there someplace else that I could bring attention to myself? She reads that the Kessels are actually the sidemen of Phil Spector, not just acquaintances, not just buddies long past. According to the article, according to Pumpkin Pie, what she read and what she conceived is that the Kessel brothers were the sidemen of Philip Spector, like sons to him. Wow, what a connection. And that's the guy that killed Lana. The next thing you know, the next time she talks to the authorities, her stories flipped 180 degrees. 180 degrees. Now, all of a sudden, now Lana Clarkson's suicidal. She's depressed. She wanted to kill herself. Kessel's backstage. And as of today, she's no longer promoting at Level 1 and Barfly and China Bistro. She's promoting at one place. She gets all of her finances from one place. 100% financial support from one place. Where is it? Where is it? Backstage Cafe. Coincidence?
Before you switch subjects, there's a couple matters we need to do, and I want to leave enough time. So, ladies and gentlemen, keep in mind the admonition will resume at 1:30 this afternoon. Council will remain, the audience will remain quiet until I have disposed of the issues I have to raise. Thank you.
We do still have a will.
You may take your recess. Thank you.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. What do we got here? Nosy Rosie. Cool name. Hey, Publicly Buzz. This is my first live. I wanted to share with you an article by Dominic Dunn called Guilty Feelings, and it will share something about Bruce Cutler that might surprise you. Send me that. I would be interested in that. Bruce Cutler, of course, was one of the defense attorneys for Phil Spector in this. He's already been excused, but early on he did one part of the opening statements before Linda Kinney Bodden came up and did a great job. Bruce Cutler was a little bit too much for everybody, quite frankly. For us, immediately with the opening statements, for the judge, the way he handled some of the early witnesses, he then basically got cut off. He didn't get to do any more work. He just kind of sit there next to the team. I would be interested to see that. We call him the mob lawyer because I think he had represented a mobster. Gotti, right? Something like that. But yeah, send me that. That's interesting.
All right, the jurors and alternates left. Mr. Ruffin, you indicated you wanted to raise certain objections.
Yes, we did. Mr. Reardon and I will do that. But just one thing that I thought I spoke with Mr. Dixon about this. The clips, which will be shown and have been shown by the prosecution as well as the fact that will be shown, need to be preserved for the record. So Mr. Dixon has suggested that they will provide a DVD to the court, and we will do likewise, and that will become a part of the permanent record.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
And we do have a number of issues, and I think Mr. Reardon wanted to start off with them, if that's okay.
Okay.
Your Honor, we have an application for a mistrial. The state has just engaged in the form of improper argument that it asked for assurances that we would not engage in last week. That is to say this. Both sides in this case came to the court and said, not as a matter of tactics, but as a matter of law, there is insufficient evidence to support anything other than a second-degree murder conviction or an acquittal, because the prosecution's theory is that the defendant put a pistol in the mouth of Ms. Clarkson and fired it. There is no evidence on which you could find accident. In fact, the court had admitted uncharged defense evidence on accident and decided to strike it because there was no accident theory. There is no evidence that would support, if the defendant did that, a lack of implied malice, because there is no evidence, testimony from him or an expert, that his mental state was befuddled and he could not have consciously disregarded the danger to life that that act obviously would present. And therefore, the court said, I agree, no involuntary instruction in this case. Mr. Jackson then said, Your Honor, here's what I fear. I fear that now that they've got involuntary out of the case, they'll get up and somehow suggest that this was an accident, there wasn't conscious disregard, he was intoxicated and so forth, and we'll be in a position where we don't get our lesser, and they're arguing for a lesser, and the jury has to acquit because it's not second-degree murder. They've argued that it's an involuntary. And the court said that would be wholly improper, and I would sustain an objection. Here's the flip side to that. Okay, we only have a second, okay? The jury hears about conscious disregard. All of a sudden, for the first time in closing, the prosecution starts arguing an involuntary theory. It says, oh, if you point a gun at somebody and there's an earthquake and it goes off, that's second-degree murder. If you point a gun at somebody and you're intoxicated and there's an accident, that's second-degree murder. That is hogwash. Everyone knows in this state, any criminal lawyer would know, that in such circumstances such as that, a jury could A, find accident if there was an earthquake and acquit entirely, or B, could find that while there was a dangerous act, it was not done with conscious disregard because it was an accident. So what they have done is taken advantage of the court's decision not to give instructions on involuntary, which if they were given, a jury would realize we're in the jury room, someone says, what if it was an accident? Someone would say, well, that isn't necessarily murder, that's involuntary manslaughter. The jury doesn't know that because the prosecution has opposed the involuntary instruction on the grounds that it's improper on these facts, and then describes an involuntary to the jury and says it's as a matter of law. As a matter of law, if you point, and I quote the argument, if you point a gun at somebody and it goes off for any reason, that is murder in the second degree. That is utter nonsense. So the only remedy the court has is either to mistry the case, or it's going to have to do this. It's now going to have to educate the jury on what an involuntary is and say, if, as the prosecution says, Mr. Jackson said, you're back in the room back there, and number 12 says, oh, it's an accident, you stand up and you say no. If it's for any reason it's second-degree murder, you're going to have to educate them on what involuntary manslaughter is and say, give the classic instructions, if you find a reasonable doubt that this is involuntary as opposed to second, then you must acquit. Or you have to reverse your decision not to give lessers, because they have just, this jury has to know that Mr. Jackson's argument that any pointing of a gun which results in a death is second-degree murder is under California law clearly incorrect. And in that situation, they would have to decide the existence of malice aforethought as opposed to the recklessness involved in involuntary. So we ask for a mistrial, or we ask for the court to instruct on the nature of involuntary, or the court can simply instruct the jury that they need to entirely disregard Mr. Jackson's accident argument that a killing by accident or by any reason constitutes under California law a second-degree murder as a matter of law. That's the first application.
Okay, just give me all your points that you want to raise, and then I'll give the prosecution a chance to respond, then I'll rule.
Okay. Number one. Number two, Your Honor, early in the argument, Mr. Jackson made what may have been a very effective argument, saying, you go out to the scene of the crime, you stand next to Alana Clarkson, what do you whisper in her ear
there's
based
Linda?
on what you have learned in this trial? Your Honor, under People v. Stansberry and People v. Fields, I can give the court the citations, both California Supreme Court citations. We have settled, and I quote, we have settled that an appeal to the jury to view the crime through the eyes of the victim is misconduct at the guilt phase of a trial. An appeal for sympathy for the victim is out of place during an objective determination of the facts. Fields says it can lead the jury to depart from their duty to view the evidence objectively and instead to view the case through the eyes of the victim. Essentially, what the prosecutor has done is asked the jury to counsel the victim about what she should do in that situation. It's clearly an appeal that departs from their role in viewing the evidence objectively, and we would ask for an admonition that the jury ignore that portion of the argument, that it essentially be stricken as inappropriate. That's number two. Number three, at one point, Mr. Jackson argued that if they distrusted a defense witness, quote, or the testimony of a defense witness, you have a legal obligation to ignore it. That's an incorrect statement of law. The correct statement of law is that even if a jury finds that a witness lied in one respect, they still have the obligation to consider whether his or her testimony is still credible in other respects.
Love
there is no
Thank you so much for the
principle
continued
of law
support,
that you have
Megan.
a legal obligation to ignore
awesome.
testimony
Got the best folks
to
here
which
in the
you
Buzz Nation.
distrust. The fourth point would be, repeatedly, Mr. Jackson used the term "I," such as "I was aghast," a reaction to testimony. He describes a meeting with Mr. Dixon, where I asked Mr. Dixon to clear this up. I was looking at a photograph. He described he went to the bar and saw a bottle of tequila. At another point, he said, I almost fell out of my chair. At another point, he said he came up to the podium and he saw pumpkin pie looking at friends, waving to friends. In each of these instances, it is inappropriate for the prosecutor ever to bring to the jury's attention his mental reactions or particularly his observations. I mean, he's certainly entitled to ask the jury to recall whether they saw something in the courtroom involving pumpkin pie, but it's clearly inappropriate for him to inform them of what his observations were, either during the jury view or in the courtroom, or his emotional reactions. A separate point is that Mr. Jackson is entitled to argue that pumpkin pie, for instance, said one thing to investigators and then said another. He's entitled to argue that she testified to some effect, but other evidence contradicts it. It's gross misconduct to say what happened in this case was that the defense lawyers realized that they had a particular problem and they would instruct pumpkin pie to testify in a particular way. It's an attribution of misconduct which is unfounded. It's false. Mr. Jackson doesn't know that.
I don't know this guy's name, Bassett, and I might have missed it, but
that a prosecutor has to inform the jury of something that they couldn't possibly.
I'm pretty sure this guy came in after Cutler got dismissed or left. Because all of a sudden, we just started seeing this dude next to Spector in the team.
Possibly no, and that there's no evidence of. And so attributing an intent to have a witness testify falsely to the defense counsel is misconduct. We'd ask for an admonition on that score, Your Honor. If I can have just 1 second. I'll defer to Mr.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yes, Mr. Reardon touched on the major points, but there are a few others. I would like to just footnote the one point that he made. I think it was point number 1 or number 2, where he was talking about in Mr. Jackson's opening remarks when he suggested to the jury, come out to the parking lot with me now. Come out and see what's going on. And if you could whisper one thing to Lana Clarkson and very dramatically say, what would it be? Don't go. What he's really done there, and I embrace Mr. Reardon's comments, is he's asked them to serve as advocates, but he's done it in a very clever way. He's once removed it. He hasn't asked them to be Lana Clarkson. He's asked them to be the advisors to Lana Clarkson, and that's not a juror's obligation. A juror's obligation is...
We have been doing this trial since, I believe, April of 2024. I'm pretty sure that's when I started. Whenever the first Karen Reed trial started is when this one started. Because I did a voting thing, and the crowd, the Buzz Nation, voted for this trial, but it was right as the Karen Reed trial was starting, and they knew that Alan Jackson was in this trial. He's the prosecutor, not the defense, but it was just like a cool little dynamic. So, but only if we knew. And we went all the way through the second Karen retrial, which is insane. And we're finally coming to a close.
Serve as the judges of the facts. That's their sole obligation, to apply the law, not to serve as advocates. So I footnote
It has
Mr.
been,
Reardon's
it
comment
has
in
been a
that.
while.
Secondly,
It's been very interesting.
I also
though.
know that
I do not regret it.
Mr. Jackson made the following comments. He said, you throw enough money at a problem and you solve the problem. And that's what Phil Spector does. And he folded that into a couple of other comments stating that we're here to seek the truth. Was the defense evidence trustworthy? And then multiple times stated, are they trying to manipulate you? These are personal attacks on the defense team itself. I think there's by way of innuendo and inference, a suggestion, and I hope it's not the case, but it certainly is out there, that Mr. Spector hired a bunch of lawyers here because he had the money and the ability to do that. There's no place for that in this case. Everybody stands before the bar equally, and all lawyers are to be judged equally by a jury.
Like
And
artists.
if you look at the combination of those,
Morning.
along with the comments that Mr. Reardon made, and I want to add one other, where he indicated, that is, Mr. Jackson, I've been living this case for 2 years, and did I miss something? A prosecutor, and I was a prosecutor in this very building for 6 years, and one of the first things you learn is you are not allowed, even a zillion years ago when I was a prosecutor, to make comments that express
Wow, Rosen was a prosecutor. I mean, that is very common for prosecutors to turn into defense attorneys, but wow, I hate this man so much.
your personal beliefs as a prosecutor to that jury. And when you start embracing...
Guarantee he's gonna be doing the closings for
that's
5
exactly what you're doing.
4 years.
And that's what happened here multiple times. And I think those are points that also needed to be made, and I think that they support what Mr. Reardon said. Thank you.
Mr. Jackson?
Oh, Brooklyn, jeez.
Very briefly,
I wonder. I bet an insane amount to the
with regard to the
taxpayers.
first point about the second-degree murder argument, this is a perfectly appropriate argument about the law of second-degree murder. If you point a
Closer
loaded
than
firearm,
not.
stick it in someone's face, it ends up in her mouth, and you're doing it in a threatening manner, and the gun goes off, that's implied malice. I don't have to have an intent to kill. I don't have to prove an intent to pull the trigger. It could go off for any reason, and that is, in fact, for any reason, second-degree murder. So I don't know where Mr. Reardon is coming from when he says, now we want to go back and
Just
get
going off of what
manslaughter.
he's saying here, it's not at all the same, but the trial that I was just a part of the jury of last week, the defense wanted us to go manslaughter. I mean, it's and we went first degree murder. I mean, it was 100% premeditated. I mean, it was hard to keep my face from showing shock when they were doing the closings, and it was insane.
Instruction. Mr. Reardon knew exactly what the court was saying when the court said last week, folks, the crime here, if the gun was in Mr. Spector's hand, the crime is second-degree murder. I mean, that came out of the court's mouth when we were discussing the appropriate instructions and subordinate instructions or lesser included offenses. Everybody agrees, as did Mr. Reardon. Oh yeah, if the gun is in Mr. Spector's hand and it goes off, we don't have to prove that he squeezed the trigger on purpose with an intent
I
to
like
kill.
Linda.
That's
She's done really
actually
well.
fact.
Linda's openings for this, like out the gate, were great. You had Cutler come on, and he was like screaming at the juror. Cutler was just way too freaking intense. Like he wasn't reading the room properly. Whatever was going on, Linda Kenny Bodden come up and made me have doubt as this went on. So at the very beginning, I was leaving an open window for the possibility of being convinced that maybe Phil Spector was somehow innocent in this. Like honestly. But as it went on, I've made, my personal opinion known, and, I think maybe there were a few that in the chat maybe even sway a little bit, but yeah, no, Linda Kenny Bodden's been awesome.
We absolutely don't have to prove that. I stated a correct statement of the law. With regard to putting someone in the eyes of the victim under Stansbury and Field, I didn't ask the jurors to put themselves in the eyes of the victim. I asked the jurors to put themselves in a position where they could watch the conduct of Philip Spector. They could watch the conduct in their mind mentally of Lana Clarkson. That's exactly what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to conceptualize this evidence. There's nothing inappropriate about that.
Wow, Gambies, that's insane.
With regard to distrusting witnesses, I have, as a matter of fact, one of the next slides, I actually quote the language of the Calgic. I'm not trying to play fast and loose with the language of Calgic with regard to, Calcrim, with regard to the juror's obligation or no obligation to distrust anything the witness said. The CalCrim is very clear. If you distrust something that they said, the witnesses said, you can ignore or you can distrust everything that came out of the witness's mouth. With regard to the pumpkin pie issues that I was talking about,
Dude, he's about to go back in on pumpkin pies like, listen,
to
this bitch.
whether or not pumpkin pie was instructed or Jennifer Hayes was instructed, I constantly said, if in fact you find that their testimony was a little too close to one another, draw an inference. You can draw an inference. Was she told what to say? Was Jennifer Hayes told what to say? They could draw that into the conversations with Tawny Tyndall. They could draw that into conversations with the defense. They could draw that into conversations with each other. There's nothing inappropriate about that, and I was not and never have been, and I will not make personal attacks on the defense. And the final thing is with regard to throwing enough money at a problem, that is a perfectly reasonable argument with regard to this case. There has been an extraordinary amount of money that Mr. Spector has spent on these defense experts, and that I
can't even imagine how much
I intend
he
to
spent.
exploit. I've
These
never
lawyers.
said that Mr. Rosen is wrong or there's a personal attack against Mr. Brunon or Mr. Plord because Mr. Spector hired them or spent money on them. I don't know if they spent money on them or not. This may be pro bono for everybody. Who knows? That's not in evidence, and I haven't talked about that. What I'm saying is, and what I said was, you hire enough lawyers who hire enough experts and pay those experts enough money, then that is appropriate argument. And what I said was, you have to question the character and quality of the defense presentation of the evidence. The defense presentation of the evidence is a phrase that I have conceived of within the last few weeks of preparing this, because I know what my obligations are, and I know I can't say, and I wouldn't say or suggest that Mr. Rosen is doing anything untoward. I'm saying the defense presentation of the evidence must be viewed for its character and its quality. I don't believe that that any of my arguments have offended the law in any way.
Okay. I'm going to try to take them in order. As to the second-degree murder, somehow that they're putting in a different theory or they're misstating the law, and you could, under Mr. Jackson's theory, you could have accident. Accident is maybe if you have a gun in your pocket and you're walking along and it discharges. If you put a gun, and I'm just using this as a illustrative point, if you put a gun in somebody's mouth and you trip or you suddenly fall down, too bad for you. Yes, it's an accident. You didn't mean for it to happen. It's the conduct. I don't think he's misstated the law.
Your Honor, I absolutely agree with you, and perhaps we can focus this in. Mr. Jackson, in his argument, just did something that he never argued to the jury. He never said to the jury, if you put a gun in somebody's mouth and it goes off for any reason, that's second-degree murder. His words were, if you point a loaded firearm at a human being, it's second-degree murder no matter how it goes off. We could probably solve this, Your Honor, by the pinpoint instruction. In other words, if it's clear to the jury that their theory is that the act dangerous to human life was placing a gun in Miss Clarkson's mouth, and if they don't find that occurred, they must acquit, then we're on the same page. But the argument that he gave by never mentioning placing a gun in her mouth implied to the jury that they could find that he was waving a gun around or standing across the room and the gun went off. If for any reason, that would be second-degree murder, which is wrong as a matter of law in California. So as long as it is clear that the state's argument is that if you place the gun in her mouth and it went off for any reason, it's second-degree murder, we're on the same page. But if the argument is if you don't find that, ladies and gentlemen, you could find that he just brandished it. If it goes off for any reason, he uses the word an earthquake, that if it goes off because of an earthquake, even if he's standing away from her, is second-degree murder, it's incorrect. So I think what we're going to need is an instruction that says that the act which they have to decide is the placing the gun in her mouth.
But there's more than that, and the problem with your pinpoint, and the reason I refused it, is you're way too limited, and your pinpoint instruction is not the law. Now, I'm not going to sit here and re-argue with everyone. If I indicated to you at the beginning, if you want to submit a revised instruction, I'll take a look at it, and if I think it properly states the law, that's wonderful. I'll also point out to you that the jury was admonished at the beginning of argument that what the attorney said didn't control, that it's the instructions that I give them that controls, so the bottom line is they'll have that. So that, I think, properly replies to the first argument. The motion for mistrial is denied. So number two, I don't believe the, what would you whisper in your ear is putting it in the eyes of the victim. I disagree that that falls under the limitations of either Fields or Stansbury. I don't see the violation. If you have something specific you want to point out to me where similar language you cannot use, of course I will change my opinion. I don't think it's a violation. The third point that was raised, let me see, had to do with the witness.
If you distrust a witness in one part, you can distrust.
Right, thank you. And my note is you need to clean that up. If you're going to do so in your argument, that's fine. Otherwise, I will do a curative admonition because I don't think that's the appropriate. If you clean it up, that's fine. And you should point out that you may have misstated the law because otherwise I'll take care of it.
Sure.
There's a couple problems with two things. Let me go by that. The question about throwing money at a problem, that's perfectly legitimate commentary. That's going to be, I'm sure, a centerpiece of the prosecution's case, is whether opinions were obtained because of the amount of money spent. That is fair game and it is fair comment. It's not even close. So the objection to that is overruled. The two things, and saying I've lived with the case for 2 years, that's not inappropriate, and there's no problem with that. There are two things that I did find some problems with. I do believe that in talking about the witnesses, you seem to indicate that defense counsel was giving them a story, and that's disparaging counsel, and there's no evidence of that. So either you clean it up and say, I made a mistake, or if that's what you think I was saying, I wasn't, or I'll take care of it. It's your choice, one or the other.
That's fine.
And there is a problem we do have, and this is the observation quote of the tequila bottle and of pumpkin pie waving. I'm not saying they weren't there. I know I never saw either one. I was in the bar. I didn't see a bottle of tequila. I don't know if the jurors saw the bottle of tequila. You may have seen it, but that's not an evidence. Pumpkin pie waving, she may have waved. I didn't see it. So that's the problem. You're commenting on things that may or may not have been observed. You can certainly talk about demeanor of a witness, but you're talking to two specific instances where, how do I know if the jurors ever saw it? It's certainly not in evidence, and we need to think about curing that. It doesn't cause a mistrial.
I can clean that up
Do so.
as well.
Thank you. We're in recess till 1:30. All right.
Order, court's getting in session.
All right, back on the record, the defendant's present with his counsel. The district attorneys are...
There's only another minute plus in this video, so I don't know what's going to happen, but as soon as that's over, we're going to spin them out.
The jurors and the alternates are not present. Just to basically address the issue that was raised about whether any possible thing that caused the weapon to discharge could be a basis for second-degree murder. The answer is in the abstract, no. That is not a correct statement of the law. Under the facts of this case, however, it's sort of yes, because the facts that might make it non-existent are not present, at least that I see, but I'll give you a statement of what the law is. It's a question of proximate cause, and it depends whether the act that would cause the gun to discharge in this case was an act of independent origin or an intervening cause. And if that cause was foreseeable by the defendant, and I'm citing language from a case, and I'll give you the case in a second, or if not foreseeable, whether it caused injury of a type which was foreseeable. If either of these questions is answered in the affirmative, then the defendant is not relieved from liability. If, however, it is determined that the intervening cause was not foreseeable and that the results which caused it were not foreseeable, then the intervening cause could become a supervening cause and the defendant is relieved from liability. Well, we don't have that in this case, which is why that language is not applicable, but that is the general language. So your language was too broad, but it really doesn't change the facts of the case. You might want to address that, and we'll go from there. Okay, we'll see if we need an instruction on it at some later time.
You were going to give us a cite on that?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's a Court of Appeal case that cites a ton of cases, and it's, this is actually People versus Brady.
I'm sorry, Grady or Brady?
Brady, B-R-A-D-Y, 129 Calap 4, 1314. Mr. Reardon?
Your Honor, we have submitted a supplemental pinpoint instruction. I don't think the court wants to address it now. We could do it at the close of the session, which attempts to address the exchange between counsel just before the lunch break.
All right, I'll take a look at it. Thank you. Let's bring in the jurors.
Let's spin a wheel. This next video is an hour 9. We'll get through that also, but first, get this set up. We'll do another giveaway. We've already given away some goodies here today. I don't know how many of these sticker packs that I've given away just yet. There was only 10 in all, so if that is available for this one, you will get that. But I have lost count on that. I have those at work, which is where I ship from. So, but let's get this going. But either way, you'll be getting some magnets and a coaster. And I do have some other stickers, but those sticker packs are limited. Those are 10. I only have 10 of those. So, but let me get these filled out here. Again, everyone coming through this morning, I really appreciate it. Everyone has been so kind, so beautiful, so awesome. Got a lot of new folks that are in the book club, which we do every Tuesday night after the regular show. Go in there, I go over my notes from the chapters that I've been reading. Right now we're going on to part 2 of chapter 29. It was pretty lengthy, so we should be finishing that up tomorrow. So if anybody is reading along, please do so. But even if you don't have to worry about that, because I take detailed notes. I go over it in detail on the members only book club. And anybody that's brand new in here that would like to see the past episodes, go back to episode 1 of the book club, which is, we're on our first book here, so it shouldn't be hard to find. And like I said, detailed notes are in there about that book if you have not read it. I think that what I read or what I take notes on is pretty intricate, and you shouldn't miss very much. So I'm typing this out. Here we go. Good luck on the new wheel, everybody. Let me get big old head out of the way here. Let's see. Good luck. Big money. Cat Grow, boom, with the win on that thing. Cat Grow, congratulations. Getting all the goodies. And like I said, if I still have a sticker pack, you will get that thing. I need to do a count on all of my goodies. But I've pretty much caught the wheel up. There's still a couple of Teresa. I still need to get you. And I got your email, so we're good. This last week, like I said, everything was just a little bit crazy. And I wasn't able to get that out. But that should go out this week. But hell yes. Love it. Again, everyone, thank you all so much for the continued support here. Let's go through another hour. Part 3, closing arguments. Alan Jackson.
Thank you, Your Honor. We were just about to, before we broke for the lunch break, we were just about to finish up with a discussion or continue a discussion about pumpkin pie. I want to step back for a second and make sure that we're all on the same page about a couple of quick things.
Love
I
you
told
guys,
you this
man.
in my opening
So
remarks,
supportive.
and I want to reiterate
So fucking
this point
cool.
to you, based on some things I said this morning and
Love
discussions
it.
that we had this
Really
morning.
enjoy what we're building here.
This
We've been
evidence
building.
belongs to you.
Can't say enough nice things.
Literally,
Love you
it's
guys.
your evidence, nobody else's. It's not mine, it's not the defense's. All the evidence in this case belongs to you. And
Yeah, I see Ember in there asking about the will is still here and the will return, the physical will, because I do like the physical will, but my marker is out. So currently we're on the virtual will, but I do know that I have a dry erase marker in the mail, in the P.O. box, thanks to Shelley. So I should be picking that up tomorrow.
your memory and your concept of how the evidence was presented, that's what controls, not necessarily what I say. And I want to make sure that we're clear about, I'll use an example. I mentioned the jury view this morning. The fact that you folks went to the jury view and someone among you decided
True
you
Crime
wanted to see
Butterfly,
the bar.
thanks for
Well,
that
it
share.
dawned on me that
Appreciate
not
that.
all of you may have wanted to look at the bar. I don't know. Some of you may have looked at it, some of you may not have. Whatever you saw when you looked in that bar, for instance, that would be your evidence. And juror number 2, your concept of what you saw, if you looked in that bar, that would be your evidence. Juror number 1, yours would be your evidence. If someone among you didn't take a glance in the bar because you felt like it wasn't necessary, that controls, and that's your evidence. Does that make sense? Nothing I say, I'm not trying to, and I would never try to.
There are rumors out there that the Gaming Commission has shut down the will. That is not true. Do not buy into that, to those lies. That is not factual. That is lies being spread by folks out there. I know nothing about it. I'm not being investigated by anyone. All right? Not being investigated by any Gaming Commission at all.
Switch anything I say for your memory of the evidence. For instance, the tequila bottle in the bar. What your memory is and what your understanding of the evidence is, that's what controls. We were talking about pumpkin pie. Same thing applies. With regard to her conduct on the witness stand. When we approached sidebar and had discussions on the record out of your presence at sidebar, whatever her conduct was, whatever her demeanor was, that's up to you to decide. It's your evidence. I'm not trying, nor would I ever try to substitute what I say for your memory. Your memory controls in all aspects, and that includes with the defense evidence as well. Prosecution evidence, defense evidence, it doesn't matter. That being said, I want to bring us back to where we left off. And again, this is your evidence. But I want to make some notes. I want to highlight a couple of things. We talked about the timeline and the change of story that Pumpkin Pie told you about, that she had to admit. She had no choice but to admit this change in story. According to her own testimony, she lied to Detective Tomlin. The question is that really true? We know she was lying because the stories are completely different. The question you have to ask yourself is when she was lying. Was she lying when she spoke with Detective Tomlin, or was she lying to you from the witness stand? Pumpkin Pie represents the centerpiece. The centerpiece, make no mistake about it, the centerpiece of the defense's evidence about Lana Clarkson. If you don't believe Pumpkin Pie, it all crumbles like a house of cards. Why? Because she is at the center of the spotlight, exactly where she wanted to be. Think about it in graphic terms. Jennifer Hayes, Greg Sims, even that woman Tanara Henson. And why Tanara Henson was called is to the stand as anybody's guess. I mean, what did she say? She said at a party, at Jeff Franklin's party, and remember she got off the stand and did a little demonstration where she ran and kind of flayed her hands out left and right, and she said, yeah, I was looking for Pumpkin Pie. Lana Clarkson, rather, was looking for Pumpkin Pie. Okay, so what? The point is, who did she go to that party with? Pumpkin Pie. How did Greg Sims, how was he connected to this whole case? He used to go to Backstage Cafe and hang out with Pumpkin Pie. Jennifer Hayes, we've already talked about. You have to question whether or not Jennifer Hayes was even giving her own testimony because she's so close to Pumpkin Pie. And what have we learned through the process of introducing evidence to you about Pumpkin Pie? First of all, as of now, 100% of her income, according to
Okay. Yeah, Pammy, I sent a package also, and it said delivered a few days ago. Okay, well, I'm going to go tomorrow. I'll check that out. I'm going to get that. Thank you, Pammy. Hell yeah, I did know that. I knew Pammy and Pokemon were sending me something.
Testimony.
So, sweet.
She's
Fuck
completely
yeah,
indebted
Appreciate
to
that.
Backstage Cafe, financially indebted to Backstage Cafe. And we also know through her testimony that Backstage Cafe is at least partially owned by the Kessel brothers. And between her testimony and that of Deborah Robitaille, what do we know about the Kessel brothers? What do we know about the Kessel brothers? Who are they connected to? And you have to ask yourself, is the evidence that's being presented to you trustworthy or is it manipulative? Are there other motivations? Are there other motives at play or at work? Who's connected to the Kessel brothers? Philip Spector. There is a direct link between the man seated right here and Pumpkin Pie. So ask yourself constantly, as you review this evidence, as you think about the evidence and how it came out, ask yourself constantly, can I trust this evidence? Or is there some manipulation going on with the evidence? What is the truth? I told you that at some point, Pumpkin Pie told the truth, and at some point she lied. Now the question becomes when? When was she lying? We know what she told Detective Tomlin. She told Detective Tomlin just hours after Lana Clarkson was killed. She said specifically, Lana was an outgoing person, she was flamboyant, she was the life of the party, and she was never suicidal. Never. That is what Pumpkin Pie told the investigating officer hours after Lana Clarkson met her death in Philip Spector's home. Lana Clarkson was never suicidal. And you remember I asked her specifically, I asked her on the stand, Ms. Pye, isn't it true that you said, at one point, you told a friend of yours, a guy named Rick Browdy, at a memorial service or at a wedding reception, some kind of a get-together, isn't it true that you told him, Phil Spector, with regard to Phil Spector, we should fry that bastard? You remember that? I asked her, and she said, her response was very clear. She said, Mr. Jackson, not only did I not say that, I would never say that because I never thought that. I never thought that. She never thought that we would find a letter she wrote in December of that same year. And what did the letter say? This is Pumpkin Pie's words. These are Pumpkin Pie's own words. My Lana, my best friend, my right arm, my inseparable sister was violently and abruptly taken from me at the hands of Phil Spector, February 3rd, 2003. On the one hand, she says, I never thought that, Mr. Jackson. I would never say, fry that bastard. I would never say that. My inseparable sister was taken from me violently and abruptly at the hands of Phil Spector.
I think Jackson's doing a good job here.
A final attempt to kick something through the goalpost to see if she could salvage what little credibility she's left with. She comes back on the witness stand. She's called back specifically to try to explain this letter, which is inexplicable, with the exception of one answer. She's a liar, and she lied to you. So she comes back to try to explain the inexplicable, and the best she can come up with is, I was being, remember the phrase, politically correct. I was being politically correct. I just didn't want to offend anybody. I was being politically correct. Give me a break. That was a pathetic attempt at covering up a lie that she got caught in. And one thing that's funny about lies is lies beget other lies, which beget other lies, which beget other lies. We've all seen a situation where a little boy breaks a vase. And all of a sudden he says, well, the dog did it. Well, I thought the dog was outside. The leash broke. Well, the leash was made out of chain. Well, it rusted because it was raining. And now you've got it raining and through a rusted chain and the leash broke, so the dog broke the vase. It wasn't raining, the chain isn't rusted, and the dog never got in the house. I mean, lies beget lies beget lies. And it's funny, once you start down that path, it's hard to stop. She didn't realize when she answered my question, oh, Mr. Jackson, I never thought that. I never thought that Mr. Spector was responsible for the murder of Lana Clarkson. I never thought that. She didn't realize that we had the letter, which says exactly that. Exactly that. And she bald-faced lied about it. Why is that important? Because there is a Cal Crim instruction. It's called California Criminal Law Instruction. That's the face page of the book, and that is the law that the judge is going to read to you. He said you'll all get your own copy of it. And this is what that law says. And I'm quoting directly from it. If you decide that a witness, and put in the word pumpkin pie right there, if you decide that Pumpkin Pie deliberately lied about something significant in this case, you should consider not believing anything Pumpkin Pie said.
He's like, you don't believe this bitch, Pumpkin Pie out here talking shit out of the side of her mouth. Don't believe her!
That comes directly from the law. That is the instruction the judge will give you. If you decide that Pumpkin Pie lied about something significant in this case, you should consider not believing anything she said. The law also says that if a witness, and substitute the word pumpkin pie here for our purposes of our argument, if a witness made a statement before trial, for instance, to Detective Tomlin, that is inconsistent with her testimony in this court, you may consider that earlier statement as the correct one, as the true statement. Again, that will come directly from Judge Fiddler. If you believe that a witness or Pumpkin Pie made an inconsistent statement before trial, and you heard evidence of it, she specifically said Lana Clarkson was not depressed, she was not suicidal at the time of her death, then you may consider the earlier statement as the true statement. The defense, through the presentation of their evidence, they attempted over and over and over to drag Lana Clarkson through the mud. The defense, through the presentation of their evidence, wants you to believe something about Lana Clarkson that simply isn't true. They want you to believe this picture that they've attempted to paint of this pathetic basket case who is bound to the deep, dark recesses of her cottage, living a life where she can't get out of bed in the morning, this depressed person who doesn't want to see the light of day and hides under the covers, and the only time she does get up is to walk to the bathroom where she hovers a razor blade over her wrist. That's the picture that the defense wants to paint for Lana Clarkson. And that is not true. That is not the real Lana Clarkson. It simply isn't true. The evidence doesn't bear that out. Did Lana Clarkson have normal emotions? Absolutely. But if anybody had their lives picked through, you could pick an email or a letter or a statement from anybody. Start putting them in order. And it sounds pathetic. Like I said, if the University of Texas loses a football game, God forbid they lose 2 in a row, God knows what someone would think about my statements the day after, the week after, the month after. That is normal human conduct. They want to paint a picture that is absolutely not true. The best way to get an idea of who Lana Clarkson is, or was, is to look at what others have said about her and what she has said about herself. People that you can trust, people that have no skin in the game, people who are working at a club that's owned by the right-hand men of Phil Spector, for instance. Sophia Holguin, she was a co-worker, hadn't known Lana Clarkson very long, but what was her comment about Lana Clarkson? She was a professional. She always went above and beyond her duties. She's describing someone who actually enjoyed her job, someone who enjoyed her life, who enjoyed her work, and went into her work 110%. That's what Sophia Holguin was describing. Euphrates Lalandres, what did he say about the foundation room? Remember, the defense would have you believe that Lana Clarkson had come so far and dropped so low in her career that she was basically slinging hash out at some greasy spoon off the 5 somewhere. Is that true? Is that an accurate statement about the job that Lana Clarkson took? This is a job, folks, that her agent suggested she take. He sanctioned this job, saying, absolutely, this is a good job. You're working at the House of Blues, you attending a bar and pouring drinks? No, I'm working at the foundation room. Take that job. Are you kidding? There's great connections to be made. Euphrates Lalandres echoed that statement through the evidence. The foundation room hostess was a coveted position. It was a coveted position. And Eric Berghammer said that's the position that she was absolutely built for. She was perfect in that position. And it had great connections, which is exactly why she took it, which is exactly why she's working there. She was a positive person with a magnetic personality. This from the defense's own witness, David Shapiro. A positive person, a magnetic personality, energetic. Those are the kind of statements that people who knew Lana Clarkson consistently and constantly said about her. Lana was a beautiful, outgoing, comedic actress. this from Nick Terzian. And Nick Terzian made several statements about who the real Lana Clarkson was. Lana was an all-out talent. Nothing but great things were ever said about her. Nothing but great things were said about Lana Clarkson. In the industry, granted, he knew her professionally. But what else did he say? He said that any agent, somebody in his position, acts like a babysitter too. I mean, you got high drama. We're dealing with actors and actresses, right? And some of those actors and actresses, according to David Shapiro, can be a little bit dramatic. They have their ups, they have their downs. I even asked Mr. Shapiro, well, you've had your ups and downs. You've had moments of depression, etc. Remember what his comment was? He said, hell, I'm depressed right now. And he kind of made light of it, but he agreed. He said, yeah, absolutely. That's part and parcel of the industry. And you know what? I wouldn't trade it for the world. Because the highs are super high and the lows, you get over it and you move on to the next day. You move on to the next thing, the next performance. That's life. And Nick Terzian echoed those comments and said that she was an all-out talent. And nothing in the industry was ever said about her except good things. Does that sound like a depressed, manic depressive person or clinically depressed person? Someone with suicidal ideation or suicidal tendencies? Nick Terzian was so taken and so smitten by Lana Clarkson and her energy level over the years that he developed a phrase that he still uses to this day in his agency. Be a Lana Clarkson. When you really want to catch that audition, when you want to get that call back, when you want to be placed on hold, when you really want to get booked for that part, be a Lana Clarkson. What does he mean by that? You put out 110%. If you're going out for a part as a showgirl, you put on the feathers. If you're going out for a part as Charlie Chaplin, you put on the little bowler cap and the mustache and carry a cane. You go 110%. That's what Lana Clarkson did. That's the reputation that she had in the business. That's the reputation she had with her friends. Sound clinically depressed to you? Lana was bigger than life. She made such an impact on all of us. And when Nick Terzian talked about her, and when Nick Terzian said she made an impact, he is talking about a positive, upbeat impact. Not somebody that he had to babysit and coddle and work out depressed times, or work through depressed times with. He's talking about the real Lana Clarkson. Neely Hudson said that she was absolutely upbeat, that she was hardworking, she was tenacious, and she was a self-starter. Hardworking, tenacious self-starters are not the people who lock themselves into their hovel, into their little house, turn off all the lights, don't pay the electric bill, don't pay their car payments, don't pay the mortgage, they don't give a darn about anything that's going on around them. Those aren't those people that sit around and hide under the covers and don't turn on the television and don't want to live life. Those people may be clinically depressed. That's not Lana Clarkson. But Pumpkin Pie and Jennifer Hayes, they had an out. They had sort of a little trap door. And what was that trap door? When they were confronted with statements like this and emails like this, what was their little trap door? They said, well, you know what? I know something you don't know, Mr. Jackson. I know the real Lana Clarkson. All of this that you're talking about, that's her game face. That's over here, that's her game face. You remember that testimony? That's her game face, that's the daytime Lana. I know the nighttime Lana. The dark and sullied and depressed Lana Clarkson. I know the real Lana Clarkson, way down in the deep recesses of her soul. That's the person I know, and you can't test me on it because even though it's not corroborated by any other testimony, I happen to know that. And by the way, if you ask Jennifer, she'll say the same thing, which she did. Listen to this statement. Lana maintained a healthy diet. She exercised. She was a happy and positive and successful person. That was to Dr. Kudrow. And that was from who? Lana Clarkson herself. And what's the problem with Pumpkin Pie's statements? That I knew the real Lana Clarkson. That was just the game face. You don't know the real Lana Clarkson. That was just your game face, this positive person. What's wrong with Jennifer Hayes' statement? That was just the daytime Lana, not the nighttime Lana. I'll tell you the problem with it. Who is this letter written to? It's written to her doctor, which means the doctor-patient privilege applies. There is no more confidence than that. The doctor couldn't have told anybody this if he wanted to. This is where you let it all hang out. Statements to your physician is where you let the real person come out. The game face, this was her game face. Why would Lana Clarkson put on a game face for her own doctor? She's seeing her doctor for headaches. She cannot get rid of the headaches. And her comment to her doctor in confidence, not some game face, not some daytime Lana, in the most respected confidence, was, I'm a happy and positive and upbeat person. That's me. That's the real me. It goes against everything Pumpkin Pie and Jennifer Hayes said. It goes against everything the defense wants you to believe about Lana Clarkson. This is the best evidence. This is the best evidence of who Lana Clarkson was. When she spoke in confidence, your doctor is someone you tell things to you wouldn't tell anybody else. People tell their doctors things they don't tell their spouses. And there's a reason for that. The doctor-patient privilege is sacrosanct. It's just not ever obliterated. Unless, of course, you're murdered. And then people start getting a hold of things like this. This was the true Lana Clarkson. Think about what she was planning for the future. Think about what the evidence shows. A little bit hard to read, and I apologize, it's small. Think about what the evidence shows Lana Clarkson was planning. And think in the back of your mind, is this someone who I can picture sitting in her cottage, no electricity, pizza boxes everywhere, empty alcohol containers, laying in bed, not turning on any lights, not turning on the TV, depressed as all get out. The kind of people that you need an intervention for, that you have to call the doctor for, these clinically depressed people who won't come out of their house for weeks on end. Think about it. Is this the person that's being described here? She was looking forward to 2003. All of the witnesses who talked about who the real Lana Clarkson was said that. She was looking forward to 2003. 2002 was a rough year because she broke her wrists. She couldn't get out and go on auditions. She couldn't get her headshots all completed. She couldn't get the reel done. She couldn't take callbacks, etc., etc., etc. It was a rough year. But what happened around September, October of 2002? She started getting better. And she started healing. And the pins were removed. And she could move her hands a little bit. And she started going on auditions. And she started going on callbacks, according to Nick Terzian. She was looking forward to 2003. She was making new contacts at the House of Blues. The House of Blues was something to look forward to, not to dread. And you could tell by the way that she attacked that job. Even Sophia Holguin said, no, she went way above and beyond the call of duty for someone in her position. She attacked that job with vigor. Sound like a depressed person? She was RSVPing to parties. There's a specific email, or it's a Evite, I guess, a response to an Evite from Anne Marie Donahue. Her husband Lee was having a party. She actually RSVP'd to go the next week. She's making plans for the future. She was tapped as the MC, to be the MC for the House of Blues, Los Angeles House of Blues employee parties. In other words, Eric Berghammer tapped her, Lana Clarkson, to be the face of the House of Blues for these parties. Do you think her job was going well, or did she hate it? Was it going well, or was she this woman who said, I hate having to go to work because I'm pulling chairs out for people I used to audition with? That's the phrase that Pumpkin Pie used. And if I'm not mistaken, that's the phrase, I think, that Jennifer Hayes used as well. Coincidence that they both used that same phrase? Coincidence? Lana Clarkson wasn't pulling chairs out for anybody. Lana Clarkson was well respected, in a coveted position at the House of Blues, and she was being tapped to do even that much more because of her talent, because of her bubbly personality. You think they would tap her to be the MC at a House of Blues employee party if she was this sullen, downtrodden, depressed person who just, had no personality? Absolutely not. She was the opposite of that. She had plans for the new pilot season. She had plans for new auditions. She was actually going on auditions. She was, even when she was sick, even when this woman had pins in her arms, you know what she was doing? She wasn't sitting around feeling sorry for herself. According to Nick Terzian and Neely Hudson, she was actually writing skits. She was advancing her reel. She wanted people to see the new Lana Clarkson, the comedic Lana Clarkson. She was...
See, I do disagree with some of this stuff. I do think that Lana was probably super depressed because of the job she had. And I actually do think she felt terrible seeing some of these past folks that she used to work with or audition for, and now she was in this spot at the Hard Rock Cafe. I do actually believe that. Like, I think he's pushing a little bit too far that way. I see what he's doing, and I totally get it, because you don't want to put any kind of doubt into the heads of the jurors that she could have possibly been depressed and wanted to do this to herself. I think, honestly, this is pretty cut and fucking dry. At the end of the day, all of the witnesses that we've seen come through over and over and over again and have the same exact situation, same exact circumstances with the same individual, Phil Spector. Every single time they wanted to leave, he would say no, and he would hold them hostage with a firearm. That's all I really need, honestly. And that gun ended up in her mouth again because of Phil Spector. And I go back to whether he meant to pull that trigger or not. I probably think he didn't. They're both heavily intoxicated, probably him inebriated to a great degree. Just hearing the way he talks and some of the audio that we heard early in this trial. Complete alcoholic, needs a lot of liquor, a lot of booze to get to a certain spot, and I feel like they were probably there that night, especially Phil Spector. And from whatever happened, whether it was an accident or not, he put the gun in her mouth,
distributing that
but
reel
I do see
to
what he's
anybody
doing.
and everybody, because she was a
But
self-starter.
I think that Lana's career was done. It was shit, and it never was what they're trying to make it out in some of this anyway. She was a B-movie actress. She was not an A Hollywood actress. She never was really on television shows. Like, he just talked about a pilot season. She was never going to be on any TV, especially at this point in her life. And as sad as it is to say, she had aged out of a lot of different roles, quite frankly. I do think that she was probably very depressed, and even with some of the writings that we've heard.
Get her. She was actually booked for a modeling ad the Friday before she met Phil Spector.
It goes back to two things can be true at the same time, honestly. And one thing that I've learned is it's hard for people to grasp that. Like, that two things can be true at the same time. They want to go either or. But man, so often, so many times, multiple things can be true together.
She was booked for the modeling ad at Siemens the Friday before she met Phil Spector, and she had gotten headshots done. This is the person that the defense wants you to believe was this downtrodden, pathetic basket case, and according to Dr. DeMaio, the casting director,
I wouldn't use basket
Dr. DeMaio,
case. But
she couldn't compete in Hollywood. She couldn't compete in modeling venues, etc. with, I don't know who he said, Paris Hilton or somebody. This is the woman that they keep trying to say was over the hill and pathetic. Take a good look at her. Take a good look.
you got to take
at
into
that
account,
woman.
though,
That, folks.
where they're at. Hollywood, very fickle place. And I know a lot about movies and actors and actresses just from enjoying cinema my life. And I know that a beautiful woman like Lana Clarkson, as sad as it is, still is and again, she was never a top Hollywood actress. She was never an A-list star. She was always in a lower level film, and usually tit type flicks, comedy type flicks. 80s tit flicks is what I'm going to call them. That might not be the right way to say this, but that's what they are. Okay, she was in a lot of lower budget films. She was never the star of these movies either. And the very few that she was more of a star in are incredibly low budget, Roger Corman style films. And they're not really putting that into perspective, the style of films that she would do.
Is Lana Clarkson. That is Lana Clarkson. And how did she react to complete strangers? Remember, it was said over and over and over by Nick Terzi and by others that Lana Clarkson had a passion. She had an absolute passion for acting, for this industry. Was it rough? Absolutely it was rough. Was it up and down? Of course it was up and down. She had high highs and she probably had low lows. She got rejections. She got booked on certain things, got rejected for others. And then, lo and behold, a complete stranger asks her, what is your opinion, Miss Clarkson? What is your opinion about the acting profession? Lana Clarkson didn't expect this to ever be read by anybody except Carlos. This was an email returned to Carlos from her website. And Carlos basically anonymously said, you don't know me, but I'd like some advice about acting. Think about what she said. Hey, Carlos, good luck with your studies, and good for you that you're doing the smart thing and pursuing a degree. In my opinion, you can be an actor at any age. Actors tell stories, and the stories of the world are about human beings of all ages. The best advice I can give you is to study the craft of acting. The more you know about your craft, the more likely you are to succeed. There are millions of hopeful actors out there who have no idea what kind of stamina, courage, and self-confidence it takes to pursue acting and to handle rejection properly. One mustn't take it personally. I've been working as an actor, studying my craft and continuing to pursue my dreams for many years now. This, contrary to what some would advise, they do not understand my passion and commitment to my art. Don't ever let anyone discourage you, no matter what. Don't let anyone discourage you, no matter what. Does that sound like someone who has one foot in the grave and the other on a banana peel? Does that sound like someone who is this pathetic basket case laying around her house, doing nothing for herself, just wallowing in self-pity and depression? Someone who would actually consider taking their own life? Is that who that sounds like? Think about Lana Clarkson on February 2nd, 2003. I'm just going to put these up here and talk to you as you read them over my shoulder. Think about what her day consisted of. The best evidence about what her mindset was on February 3rd, 2003 is what she was doing on February 2nd, 2003. Think about it. Put it together in your mind. Put together the evidence that you've heard. We know that she woke up. She was at her cottage in Venice. We heard from Neely Hudson. She told us a little bit about what Neely was doing. She woke up and it was an absolutely beautiful
I'll take that off the screen like we can read it. It's hard to
day
read.
in Venice. How do we
Yeah, when
know
he's in the
that?
bathroom, I'll be
Neely
right
told
back
us.
up.
It was a gorgeous day out.
Thanks, everyone, for
You
hanging
can
out.
imagine in Venice Beach.
Great morning.
What? 73, 74 degrees in February probably. A cool breeze blowing in off the ocean. The sun shining. And what did Lana do? She got up, made her bed. You've seen the photos. She made her bed and then began to clean up. I don't know, what did she do? Did she get a cup of coffee, get a cup of tea for herself, read the paper, read Variety maybe? I don't know. Appears that it was a relatively normal morning. And she gets on the phone with her mom. Mom, sweetheart, you want to go shopping? Sure, hon, we'll go shopping. What do you want to buy? You know what? My feet hurt. I'm at this new job. I'm on my feet a lot. My feet hurt. I'd like some new shoes. Let's go shopping for shoes. Okay, hon, we'll do that. What time do you want to meet? Oh, I don't know. Let's meet early afternoon or so because I have to work tonight. Perfect. No problem. That's fine. So Lana goes about her day. Neely Hudson shows up at the house. Lana Clarkson had taken a shower. She cleaned up, put her makeup on, put eyelashes on, curled her hair. Remember Neely's description? She had this gorgeous set of ringlets. You've seen pictures of her after Philip Spector had his way with her. But when she went to work, she had these beautiful blonde ringlets. She put on her slip dress, her jacket, her shoes, her nylons. Sound like a depressed person who doesn't want to get out of the house? Makes her bed, makes plans that day, goes shopping that day, plans on buying one pair of shoes, and she sees another she likes, and she gets those, and another, and she gets those, and another, and another, and another. 7 pairs of shoes. Sound like someone who's contemplating her own death? She goes to work that night and works an entire 8-hour shift. Do people who are contemplating their own death go to work? She takes her car in, works the whole shift, and remember what she did before she left. She made sure she moved her car. Why? Because she was going to need it. She was going home after she met Phil Spector. This is her day. This is all the evidence about her day. On February 2nd, 2003, and the defense would have you believe that she was just wrapped up, contemplating her own death, sitting around with these suicidal thoughts and suicidal ideation, hating herself, hating her job so much that she would actually consider taking her own life. Does that sound like the Lana Clarkson that you've gotten to know? Not by a long shot. Not by a long shot. Lana Clarkson, through the evidence in this case, has suffered and endured something that no human being should have to endure. She's been murdered twice. She was murdered once on February 3rd, 2003 by Philip Spector when he put a gun in her mouth, and that gun went off. And her character has been assassinated over the last 4 months through the presentation of the defense evidence, attempting to paint her in a way that simply isn't true. It simply isn't true. I want to change gears for a second and talk a little bit about the defense science case. They spent about half the time attacking Lana Clarkson, the other half the time attacking the science, or presenting what they promised to you to be the science in this case. And you have to constantly ask yourself, what did you hear from the defense presentation? Did you hear real science? Or did you hear paid scientists? It's a big difference. Through the presentation of their evidence, the defense has consistently bent and twisted the truth in this case, the true science. They've tried one thing, and when that didn't work, they try another. And when that doesn't work, they shift gears and try another. Let's talk a little bit about that. Linda Kinney Bodden stood up here in an opening statement, and she made you a promise. She said, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, there's one unimpeachable, unbiased witness in this case, and that unimpeachable, unbiased witness is the science. The science shall set you free, according to Linda Kinney Bodden.
Pretty boss move, quoting Linda Kinney Bodden, you know, the opposition, the defense attorney. Holy shit.
Well, let's explore that for just a second and see what their science really was. When you take a look at it closely, the defense unimpeachable, unbiased science was paid $200,000, more than $200,000 in this case, for their opinions. And that's just some of them. That's just 3 of them, as a matter of fact. Dr. Bodden, Dr. Spitz, Dr. DeMaio. $200,000 for their opinions. This is the unimpeachable, unbiased science. $5,000 a day for testimony. The unimpeachable, unbiased science. Their unimpeachable, unbiased science removed evidence from the crime scene and concealed that evidence from the prosecution, from the court, and most importantly, from you, Dr. Henry Lee. And that unimpeachable, unbiased science ended up being married to one of the defense attorneys. Unimpeachable, unbiased science, according to Linda Kinney Bodden. She said that there would be 10 points that would scientifically prove that Lana Clarkson was holding that weapon at the time it was discharged. 10 points that would scientifically prove that. Your Honor?
Yes.
May I?
Linda looks pissed, dude. She's like, what the fuck? Dude, LJ, look at that look! You could, I'm snipping that right now. I'm snipping that and putting that on X. Look at her face, dude.
Let's take a closer look at those 10 points. I just put them up here. This is a very brief overview of what the 10 points are. It includes the bullet trajectory, the back spatter, the distance that it traveled, the tissue on the sleeves, the GSR, location of tooth material, DNA on the cartridges, the size disparity, amazingly enough, and blood clotting on the diaper, the blood on the gun, and the broken acrylic nail. 10 points that would scientifically prove that Lana Clarkson was holding the weapon. Let's take those in order. The bullet trajectory. The bullet trajectory was testified to by Dr. Pena. He indicated...
That was crazy.
Let's do this. Sorry. He indicated
Definition
that the
of it,
bullet went
right?
front to back, basically along the
She is
midline. All
pissed.
of their experts agreed, front to back, basically along the midline. And remember what Dr. Pena said? He said it doesn't matter where the head is. Does not matter. You put the trajectory rod into the mouth.
I tagged her. Please retweet that. I tagged Linda Kenny Bodden in that right just now on X.
Appropriate angle. You can move the head in any position you want to.
I said, oh shit. I'll just show you guys. Because it is what it is. Oh shit. Linda Kenny Bodden throwing absolute daggers at Alan Jackson in the closing arguments of this trial right now.
Any position you want to. It tells you nothing about whose hand was on the weapon when it was fired. It tells you exactly zero about whose hand was on the weapon when it was fired. So then I asked Dr. DeMaio, Dr. DeMaio, what does the bullet trajectory tell you? Linda Kenny Bodden promised that it was going to show scientifically that she had to have her hand on the gun. Dr. DeMaio said, no, it doesn't really tell you anything. He said the head can be in any position at all. False. 1 point down. Absolutely false. The science that Ms. Kenny Bodden said would prove whose hand was
What a
on the gun
visual aid.
concerning the bullet trajectory, 100% false. Tells you nothing of the kind. The bullet trajectory in this case is consistent with homicide. It's consistent with Philip Spector holding the gun, and her head could be in any position. That's what the science tells you. Blood spatter traveled 72 inches, number 2. Linda Kenny Bodden said, we're going to introduce you to the inimitable Dr. Henry Lee, who's going to tell you that the blood spatter in this case traveled 72 inches, all the way across the room, 6 feet away. Did you hear that evidence? Did anybody in this jury box hear that evidence? Henry Lee was going to come in and say, that blood spatter traveled 72 inches, 6 feet away. Therefore, Mr. Spector had to be standing 6 feet away. He couldn't have fired the fatal bullet. Therefore, scientifically, it's proved. Only problem is, Henry Lee didn't testify in this case. And I can promise you something. If Henry Lee would have agreed with that postulate, if he would have agreed with that statement, you would have heard from him. And you didn't. So what does that mean? Wrong. Wrong, wrong, wrong. That is a false statement. There is no evidence in this trial that the blood spatter in this case traveled 72 inches.
Hell's Phil looking at.
Let's take number 3. Tissue on the sleeve. I should have just stayed up there. You know what? As a matter of fact, I'm going to walk back up there. Tissue on the... Do I need to talk about tissue on the sleeve anymore? I mean, haven't we beaten that dead horse? The tissue on the sleeve is from, and you can all say it with me, the purge. The tissue on the sleeve, on the back of her sleeve, is from the purge. The tissue on the... They desperately wanted those buttons to be facing her mouth. Because then they could say something about she's got some tissue on her buttons and he doesn't have that same tissue on his jacket, therefore you got to separate them physically, and therefore he couldn't have fired the fatal bullet. The problem is they're just wrong. They're just dead wrong. The tissue on the sleeve, I mean, it doesn't take a genius to figure it out. I kept putting pictures up there. Well, Dr. Bodden look at this picture of the sleeve. Big, giant mark of blood soaked into the sleeve. And he'd say, oh, that doesn't look like blood to me. Are you kidding? It was laughable. It was
Thanks, Simi.
laughable. And then they start this action. Hang on a second. I'm going to ruin another suit doing this. Hang on. There we go. There, you've got that going on. Oh, my gosh. Are you kidding? Is this trustworthy evidence, or is this an attempt, a desperate attempt at manipulation? Number 4, the GSR. Who wants to hear a 30-minute dissertation about GSR? Me neither. You folks have had to endure discussions about GSR that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. Let me just say it this way. Chris Pinto, Steve Dowell, all the experts have agreed. GSR is a cloud. It's simple, folks. It's an amorphous cloud, and it lands on anything that it's around. And when a gunshot is fired right here in your face, it's going to surround you. It's going to surround your hands if they're in your lap. It's going to surround your hands if they're up. You can't quantify it. You can't say there's 36 pieces of GSR on her and 32 on him, therefore she fired the gun and he didn't, or vice versa. You can't do that. And you certainly can't do it when one of the parties washes or wipes his or her hands. It removes the GSR.
Look at him.
The GSR will prove that Lana Clarkson fired the gun.
Look at him. Jesus.
Number 5, the tooth material. Actually, this
Dude,
is an
this is the
interesting one,
craziest trial.
because
Like,
the
I don't
tooth
think there's
material proves
anything like it.
exactly the opposite.
You know, I've not seen every trial in the world. You know, I've been doing this for a little while now. I have seen some trials. You know, I'm not a complete novice, but this is a wild freaking
Of
trial.
what Miss Kinney Bodden wanted it to prove. She said, look,
Never
if
seen
Mr.
nothing like
Spector
this.
were standing in front of her, anywhere in front of her, he would have blocked the tooth material. And we know that some of the tooth material went toward the stairs, right? Right? Except he did block some of the tooth material. She had a tooth fragment on her abdomen. Remember that? I guess Miss Kinney Bodden forgot that one. There is a equal and opposite, there's an action for every, an equal opposite reaction for every action. I just said that backwards, but you guys get the point, right? There is a recoil. Boom, the gun comes out, and the teeth shatter. Some of them, because he's standing on her right, some of them are going to go over his shoulder. Some of them are going to go toward the left. Some of them are going to go over the head, whatever. But one tooth material, I can tell you where they're not going to go. One of the teeth is not going to go blink right down onto her abdomen. It's not going to happen. When every other tooth is across the room, that one's not going to end up on her abdomen unless someone is standing here and that fragment hits the jacket and bounces straight down. The tooth material on her abdomen actually proves the opposite of what Miss Kinney Bodden wants it to prove. It proves that he was standing in front of her.
Jesus. Okay.
Number 6. We've already talked about number 6. The DNA was on the front, on the top, or the tips of the bullet, or the bullets, not the bottom. That was just dead wrong. Number 7. What else did Miss Kinney Bodden say was going to definitively and scientifically, remember what her statements were, scientifically prove that she fired the weapon? The size disparity. She's bigger than Spector, and therefore, scientifically, she should have been able to disarm him. I didn't say this. That's what Miss Kinney Bodden said. I mean, literally, this came out of the mouths of their science witnesses. A scientist took an oath and swore to tell the truth and literally got on the stand and said, because she weighs more and she's taller, she had to have shot herself because if he had the gun, she could disarm him. I was so incredulous. I was so taken aback. I asked him, Dr. DeMaio, how many people have you disarmed? In an incredulous tone of voice. And wouldn't you know, he said, oh, I don't know, 2 or 3. 2 or 3? What is he, when he's not being a pathologist? Like, He rips open his shirt and he's got a big S on his chest. I mean, is he the ninja pathologist? What is
All
this
right,
guy?
dude. Ellen's killing
Are you
this.
kidding?
It's hilarious,
That's scientific
dude.
evidence? That's the best they can do? She should have disarmed him. She should have snatched the revolver right on the cylinder and kept it from turning so that... Are you kidding? This is their scientific evidence? That's the best they can do? That's for Dr. DeMaio, that's what, $30,000 gets you that? I'd ask for my money back. Are you kidding? But that was the testimony. You know, there's an old saying, and maybe it's more prevalent where I come from and not out here.
Dude.
God
Dude, Linda has to do the closing for the defense. I want to see
made
that.
all men and
He
women.
should come out taking
And
shots.
Samuel Colt made them all equal.
This has been fiery.
What that means is guns are the great equalizer. I don't care how big or small you are. If I got a gun and you don't, I win. Lana Clarkson wasn't going to disarm anybody. That is the most ridiculous statement of any of the science experts. And there were some whoppers, by the way. We haven't gotten to the magic blood theory, but we will.
Oh, God. Ugh,
Blood
kills my
clotting on the
ears.
diaper. Number 8. The blood clotting on the diaper was, according to Linda Kinney Bodden, going to scientifically prove that she pulled the trigger, that the gun was in her hand. I just don't even get that. I don't get it. I don't know how to argue it. I don't get it. One thing has nothing to do with the other. I can tell you this, though. She suggested that it proves he rendered aid. The blood clotting on the diaper. That he was rendering aid, not by a long shot. The blood clotting on the diaper, according to their own experts, who had to admit on cross-examination, I asked him, isn't it true that the scientific literature indicates that it takes up to 15 minutes for blood to even begin to clot? The answer is yes. There is some literature out there that says that. As a matter of fact, I believe that literature came from Dr. Henry Lee's own book. If he was rendering aid, he would have contacted her immediately. And by the way, there's another way to render aid other than grabbing a diaper and wiping her face. You all know what that is, and we'll talk more about that in just a second. The blood clotting on the diaper does not prove that he rendered aid. What it proves is that he wiped her face. He was trying to clean up the mess that he had made. The blood on the gun. This is Kenny Bodden indicated that the blood on the gun and the way that it was wiped is going to show that the gun was accidentally kicked across the carpet. The gun was kicked across the carpet. Where's something I can kick? There it is.
You've been kicking the shit out of Linda Kinney
much I
Bodden
can,
this
but-
entire time.
It'll serve its purpose. The gun was kicked across the carpet, and that accounts for all the blood that was moved or removed on that gun. The gun was wiped on both sides, into the cylinder, into the flutes. Both sides of the front sight were wiped down. The handle was wiped. That gun was wiped completely down. Now, it wasn't wiped completely off, because as you begin to smear blood, blood from one point gets to another. I mean, it's just sort of obvious. But this is what Ms. Linda Kinney Bodden says accounts for the blood on the gun. Does it? No. No, not even close. As a matter of fact, there is no blood on the carpet. The carpet was checked for blood. The carpet was luminol. And that luminol, we'll talk a little bit more about Steve Renteria in just a second. That luminol is so sensitive, 1 in 5 million parts. It actually luminesced where the rag was dropped. That rag was dropped onto a piece of carpet next to the toilet. The rag was picked up, and the carpet luminesced underneath. If a bloody gun was wiped across the carpet to the point that it's literally wiping blood off the gun, that carpet would have luminesced. That carpet would have had blood on it, and there was, in fact, none. Another false statement. Not supported by any of the science. And then we come to the broken nail. Ms. Kinney Bodden's last point. the broken nail. The broken acrylic nail, she said scientifically was going to prove that this wound was self-inflicted. All three of her experts, her husband, Michael Baden, Dr. DeMaio, and Dr. Spitz all said, oh yeah, the nail broke on the trigger. And I said, where's the science that shows that? Where's the evidence of that? Well, because I said so. Because I want the nail to break on the trigger. It broke on the trigger, Mr. Jackson. Leave me alone about it. I'm telling you, it broke on the trigger. Well, Dr. DeMaio, where's the evidence that it broke on the trigger? Show me a piece of physical evidence. Linda Kinney Bodden says the science was going to prove it. You're a scientist, but you're just saying stuff. Show me where it broke on the trigger. How do you know it didn't break on the bathroom door or when she was getting in or out of her car or at the House of Blues? Give me something. Mr. Jackson, get off my back. I said so. I want it to break on the trigger, so it's going to break on the trigger. Pretty simple. Leave me alone about it. And that's their science. Now, what do we know about a small white object? We do know one thing about a small white object, and that is Henry Lee picked one up. And Henry Lee didn't turn it over to the prosecution. And Henry Lee didn't turn it over to the court. And Henry Lee made sure you folks never saw it. So what does that mean they get to do with their arguments? I mean, was that nail broken in a struggle? There's other evidence of a struggle. Was that nail part of a struggle? Certainly seems reasonable, doesn't it? But one thing you can know for sure, folks, you will never know. Because Henry Lee made sure that nail, or whatever it was, that white object, was never turned over. So what was it? I don't know. I can't answer that question for you. And you can't answer that question either. So what does that free them up to do? It frees them up to stand up an opening statement and say anything they want to about that nail. It frees their experts to get on the stand and swear to tell the truth and tell you scientifically, in my opinion, it broke on the trigger, and there's nothing you can do about it, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. You can't prove otherwise, can you? You can't prove otherwise. This does not prove that the wound suffered was self-inflicted. All the broken acrylic nail proves is that she had a broken acrylic nail. Not one expert was able to give you scientific evidence showing where that nail was broken or how it got broken. False. At the end of the day, not one, not even one of the scientific postulates that Ms. Linda Kinney Bodden promised we're going to prove, independently promised we're going to prove that this wound was self-inflicted, not one stands up to the scrutiny of the evidence. Not even one. I mean, I'd give you one, but not even one. One by one, they started falling like tin soldiers, over and over and over. So what happened? What happens when your science starts falling apart? You just start changing the science. That's easy enough. Think about how the science in this case came into evidence. First, Linda Kinney Bodden, through her opening statement, indicated that the back spatter was going to be proven to fly 72 inches. And this was going to come from Dr. Lee, and of course Dr. Lee never testified in this case, never told you anything even close to this. And if he were in a position to tell you something like this, he would have come in here and said it. The reasonable interpretation of that is, even he doesn't agree with that statement. So, what the heck? Let's just change it. Now let's change it to a slight exhale. Maybe a lot of Clarkson exhale after you shot, and that counts for the blood on respect. Well, Dr. DeMaio didn't stand up, the science didn't stand up on cross-examination for that postulate either. Lana Clarkson's spine was completely transected, and this is before we get to Dr. Bodden. Dr. DeMaio agreed that the spine was completely transected, and she couldn't have moved. You know what? That's not really working out for us. Let's go to satellite spatter. I know, there's satellite spatter. Mr. James testified that there was...
Oh shit, fajitas. Let me get that fixed real quick. Fajitas popping in right at the end on us. Let's fix that real quick.
Satellite spatter that could, he said could, account for drops that look like the drops on his
Fajita
jacket.
emoji for the
Remember
win.
what I asked him on cross-examination, though. Remember what I asked him. All right, you're saying that one thing drops into another, blood drops into blood, and could spatter, correct? He said yes. Are you telling me, are you telling this jury that the pattern on Phil Spector's jacket is accountable by satellite spatter? You're saying that this pattern is satellite spatter? And he said, no, that's not what I'm telling you. I'm telling you that a couple of drops could have been from satellite spatter. I'm not telling you that the pattern that appears on his jacket is all from satellite spatter, because it makes no sense. It makes no sense. So they changed that. All right, well, let's just go with something crazy. Who knows what'll stick? We're throwing spaghetti against the wall, so let's see what sticks. Next, they come up with this. I dare you to try to write that. You're going to write, did a raspberry sound. Dr. Spitz is up there doing raspberries. The man's been practicing medicine for 54 years, and the best he can do is come up with a raspberry. He blows raspberries. That sounded ridiculous.
Alan Jackson
right
is
off the
out here
top.
just bam,
Decided,
bam, bam,
we'll
bam,
check it with the
bam,
raspberry
bam,
defense.
bam.
Let's
Holy
change it to,
shit.
the victim coughed. So we'll call a neuropathologist who will say the victim coughed. Except again, on cross-examination, I asked, give me the timing, Dr. Lietzma, give me the timing of when she coughed. Instantaneously, she might have had one reflexive cough at the time the shot was fired. That doesn't help us, darn it. That doesn't help us because that still puts Spector right on top of her at the time the shot's fired. So let's change it.
Dude, one thing you
Chris
got to give
Florida-
props for Alan Jackson for, you know, I know most people like Alan Jackson regardless, but in this trial, you know, whether you're, whichever side of the fence you're sitting on, he is so fucking poignant, dude. He is animated, he's charismatic, he will keep the jury awake, right? He's not losing them. Like, good
asked
lord.
a couple of questions that I think Mark Scott Taylor and maybe one or two other witnesses, well, what about prime rib spatter? I mean, could it be something, you'd gotten something on his jacket from prime rib, which was, you know, good for comic relief, but even Mark Scott Taylor said, Mr. Plord, it's her blood. It's not a cow's blood on his jacket, it's her blood. So the prime rib's out. You know what? I'll tell you what. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna bring back the cleanup hitter. We're gonna drop back and launch a Hail Mary pass and see where that comes out. We're gonna say, Lana, she was alive. We're just gonna bring her back to life. What the heck? We've tried everything else, and none of the other science is working for us. Let's just bring her back to life. Her spine wasn't transected. That would be great. It'll work out terrific. We'll see some of those neurons were still shooting, and she could cough and breathe for 2 to 4 minutes, as a matter of fact. 2 to 4 minutes. And you're supposed to believe that Lana Clarkson was shot through the back of the head vis-a-vis her mouth. Her spine was cut in half. There were some axons left. This is what you're expected to believe. There were some axons left, allowing her entire respiratory system to work, and that she breathed in 3 pounds of blood into her lungs. And what was Philip Spector doing all this time? I mean, even if you assume that's true, she's gurgling and dying in her own blood. She's drowning in 3 pounds of her own blood. And what's he doing? Wiping the gun off and stuff like that? If you're thinking to yourself, it doesn't really make sense, it's because it doesn't make sense. Because it's not true. And this last-minute Hail Mary pass, just because it comes from Dr. Bodden, a forensic pathologist, ain't gonna make it true. When the defense didn't like the way their science was going, they just changed the science. And this is supposedly the unimpeachable, unbiased science that they're going to rely on. The unimpeachable, unbiased science. I'm going to move through this because I've touched on a lot of this already. I'm going to move through this a little bit more quickly than I had anticipated. We know that their unimpeachable, unbiased science was paid a lot of money. And one of the things I do want to touch on is Dr. DeMaio. I was just fascinated that The interesting thing about Dr. DeMaio's testimony is the fact that he wasn't willing to say no to anything.
I can't.
I mean,
It's crazy.
He'd answer any question. He wouldn't say anything was out of bounds. He wouldn't say anything was outside of his expertise. The man was an expert on everything. At different times in his testimony, he never said these words, but at different times in his testimony, he testified that he was an expert on everything from firearms to psychology to toxicology to GSR, casting director, bloodstain patterns, statistics, physics, histology, fluid mechanics, hydrodynamics, aerodynamics, ballistics, criminalistics, and martial arts, of all things. Because she should have been able to snatch that gun away from him. I know so. The man would say anything. You ask him a question and he's going to say, whoop, yep, I can answer that. For 30,000 bucks, I'll answer anything you want. They got every penny's worth out of him. Are you kidding? That was the best money Mr. Spector ever spent. They got every penny's worth because he wasn't willing to say he didn't know a single thing. He's the expert on everything. And he's the expert on backsplatter. And the funny thing about backsplatter is he said that he went to different locations, and when I asked him about backsplatter, he said, oh yeah, I'm an expert on backsplatter, and I've been to different crime scenes where there's backsplatter on the wall and backsplatter on the ceiling, and I know that backsplatter can get on the gun and on the hand of the person who's firing the weapon, and backsplatter goes all over the place. As a matter of fact, backsplatter can go 6 feet sometimes. Backsplatter can even go 6 or 8 feet sometimes. What's wrong with everything I just said there? Yeah, right. I'm using the wrong word. He said backsplatter over and over. There's no word as splatter. It's spatter. The man is claiming to be an expert in backspatter and doesn't know even the most basic terminology. I'm not saying he's not an expert on something. He's a hell of an expert on forensic autopsies. That's what he does. The problem is the autopsy can't tell you anything about who fired the weapon in this case. You have to look outside the autopsy, as Dr. Pena told you. So what do they do for 30,000 bucks? He says, you know what, I'll look outside the autopsy. I'll look anywhere you want me to look. And what do you want me to say? I'll say anything you want me to say. Dr. DeMaio testified as an expert on just about everything under the sun. You have to ask yourself, is this the quality and character of the science that I can believe? Is that really science, or is that just a scientist? There's a difference between a scientific opinion and the opinion given by a scientist. And when I asked him give me some citations, Dr. DeMaio, give me some citations that support your idea that the back splatter could go more than 6 feet in this case from an intraoral gunshot wound, because that was his testimony. Give me a citation. He said, well, there was this German guy, and he shot a calf in the head. Pardon? He shot a what? He shot a cow in the head. I'm sorry, did you say a cow? He shot a calf? A cow? Yeah, that's what he shot. Was that an intraoral gunshot wound? Well, it was a shot to the temple. To the what? To the temple. Oh, so wait a minute. So you're telling us that you can opine as an expert. Lana Clarkson is a human being who was shot through the mouth. And you're opining as an expert in backsplatter and basing your opinion on a single experiment done by a German guy who shot a calf in the temple. You didn't even get 2 of the 3 right. Yeah, that's what I'm basing my opinion on. You got anything else, Dr. DeMaio? No, that's about it. All right, well, let's move on then. That's the best he could do insofar as scientific authority is concerned for his opinions. He also ignored the evidence at the crime scene. And this is a running theme, and I'll say it now so I can kind of get past it. This will come up with Dr. Lynn Harold as well. Mr. Pex, Mr. James all agreed. What you have to look at, folks, is the evidence at the scene. The evidence at the scene. You've all been educated on this now. You know that it's the evidence at the scene that controls. Not what might happen, not what could happen in a theoretical case, not what has happened in the past in experiments. Look at the evidence at the scene. Lana Clarkson was stretched back in the chair. The blood spatter stopped at the hem of her skirt. All right? I asked Dr. DeMaio about that. Did you look at the evidence at the scene? I mean, come on, isn't that the best way to evaluate what happened at a particular scene? Look at the evidence that appears at that scene. No, I didn't look, I don't care. I ignored that. Doesn't matter to me. Why? Because he's not getting paid to talk about the evidence at the scene. He's getting paid to say what Mr. Spector wants him to say, or what's in Mr. Spector's best interest. And he refused to consider Philip Spector's history. He would talk all day long about Lana Clarkson. You remember. He'd talk all day long till the cows came home, no pun intended, about Lana Clarkson. When I asked him, well, did you consider Mr. Spector's history? He was the other guy in the room. Come on, folks. He was the other guy in the room. Did you consider his history of violence, his history with women, his history with guns? No, absolutely not. I don't care about that. Why don't you think he cares about that? Because he's getting his paycheck from that guy. He's not stupid. He's not going to stand up there and say, oh, yeah, I consider
Peaches,
Mr.
welcome in
Spector's
here.
history of violence with women, and my goodness, looks pretty bad for Mr. Spector. No. He's getting a paycheck from the guy. This is the unimpeachable, unbiased witness. Science. And then we had Dr. Spitz.
You're right.
$50,000, maybe a little bit more because he testified a couple more times, and I don't think I updated my slide, but I think it's probably up to 55 or 60,000. Doesn't really matter. Comes up with raspberries and magic blood theory. Two things completely, well, they're completely ridiculous for one thing, but they're also completely an opposite of each other. Raspberries suggest
a day here
that
in the
he got
church
the back
as we
spat
wind
on
this thing down.
when he walked up and she's
Everybody's been
blowing
amazing.
raspberries after
Wow.
she's already dead, amazingly enough. He had absolutely no authority for that. He had no scientific authority to point to say that she was doing raspberries and spitting stuff and, whatever. And then he's got the magic blood theory. And I asked him, again, a little bit incredulously, expecting an answer that I didn't quite get. I said, so wait a minute. Wait. You're telling me you agree that there's no blood found on the carpet, there's no blood found on her thighs, on her shins, on her shoes, on the wall behind Mr. Spector, on the wall behind Mr. Spector, the stairs, nothing. You say that Mr. Spector is standing 6 feet away, and that blood is spattered. It comes back out, a high impact spatter comes out and lands on her skirt, then jumps over her thighs. You remember this? Jumps over her thighs, takes a right, then collects itself into a perfect uniform pattern, finds the left side of his jacket, pow, and finds Mr. Spector 6 feet away. No blood behind him, no blood in front of him, no blood to the left, no blood to the right. Just right there. And his answer was, yep, that's what I think. Absolutely. I figured I probably could have stopped about that point with my cross-examination.
You can stop now on your argument.
Shoo!
Take a recess. Keep in mind,
What a morning.
Recess for 15 minutes.
And we're still not done. We are going into part 4, which is another hour 15, guys. We're going into 4 hours on closing from prosecution right now. And True Crime, Butterfly said it in the chat, an absolute roast session is what's happening right now. Holy crap. Wow. Still not done. I think Tuesday night we're going to come in here and we're going to keep doing this right here. We're so close to finishing this thing out. We are going to finish the Phil Spector trial one way or the other. Everyone that came through here this morning, thank you all so much. It's been incredible. We're into the afternoon here, at least on the East Coast. I really appreciate it, guys. Keep your eyes on the channel this week. Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, we'll have a show directly after. All the new folks that are now a part of the Buzz Nation can come right in here for this right here, the book club. We are still reading The Stranger Beside Me, getting ready to go into the second part of Chapter 29. I will have my notes ready by then. Hopefully everything will be good. I will be playing a little bit of catch up, but keep your eyes on socials. That should be happening. I've got a video coming out on the wrestling channel at 4:45 p.m. today. Check that out. I'll be pushing it later. And then at 3:30 p.m. Eastern, I will be going live. If nothing happens, I'm running a little weird on time, but I'm going to still try to make that happen so I can get the 2 episodes of Memphis Wrestling that we watch every Sunday night on that channel. But holy crap, and also keep an eye on this channel. I'm going to try to make a detailed video talking about the trial that I was a juror on within the last week when we sent a man to prison for the rest of his life for first-degree murder without mercy. Woo! What is even happening? Good Lord. Everybody, thank you all so much. Absolutely love you guys. Incredible morning. Have a great rest of your Sunday. If I don't see you again on any of my wrestling stuff, thank you all so much for this. Come back through Tuesday night because we are going to keep on going into the 4th hour, part 4 of Alan Jackson delivering this incredible closing argument for Lana Clarkson. Thank you guys. Love you.